Chapter 425. Let's do it. In the next moment, under Fei Rin's instructions, Puppet Little White also leaped out and landed on the desolate sand slope below. The desolate sand slope below his feet seemed to be very calm, but there was something else going on. Before this, Fei Rin had sensed a large number of sandworms' devil power auras hiding here, and they were very dense. In addition, the desolate sand was also the sandworms' favorite habitat. Although these sandworms usually hid deep underground and rarely moved, once outsiders invaded or went out to look for food, these sandworms would also come out in full force. Bang! Puppet Little White landed heavily, shaking a layer of yellow sand and shooting in all directions. It was a powerful force. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the next moment, the originally calm and desolate sand slope also trembled. The surrounding sand also rose slightly, as if something was about to drill out from the ground, and there was a large number of them. The prey has taken the bait. In the sky, looking at the sudden change in the desolate sand slope below, Fei Rin's face also turned cold. It was obvious that he had expected this. Crack! In the next moment, Puppet Little White also suddenly pulled out a large bone. Then, the bone twisted and changed, turning into an extremely sharp bone blade. As a puppet, although it did not have any intelligence, it only listened to Fei Rin's orders. However, using its own bones as weapons to fight the enemy was imprinted in Puppet Little White's battle memory. When it was first refined into a puppet, this battle memory would not be forgotten. Therefore, even without Fei Rin's instructions, Puppet Little White would prepare for battle with all its might and would not underestimate the enemy in the slightest. Boom! Just as Little White was about to get into position, another deafening sound was heard. This time, it came from the ground beneath their feet. Swoosh! Swoosh! Countless strange, brownish-yellow insects rushed out from the ground in a frenzy. They were aggressive and did not look good, and even looked a little disgusting. These strange insects had a pair of sharp teeth. Although they did not have eyes, they had extraordinary hearing. They were Fei Rin's target, sandworms. At this moment, there was a huge number of sandworms surging out of this desolate sand slope. When one looked up, they were densely packed, and there were about 10,000 of them. So many. Looking at the sandworms on the ground, Fei Rin was stunned for a moment before he was overjoyed. Such a large group of sandworms also meant that there was a high chance that an adult sandworm king would be born. Then, his trip would be worth it. Hiss! At this moment, Puppet Little White was the only living creature on the sand slope. These sandworms with sharp hearing naturally discovered the other party and immediately pounced on Puppet Little White. At the same time, they opened their sharp teeth, intending to tear the other party into pieces. Crock, crock. In the face of the sandworms, Little White showed no signs of fear. After all, it was a puppet made of bones, so there was no way it would be afraid. Boom! It raised its hand and blasted out a bone blade. In an instant, it flattened the area with a radius of several feet. Countless sandworms were killed, and a cloud of stinky blood splattered out. Although these sandworms looked aggressive and there were many of them, their magic power waves were very weak. With a sweep of the bone blade, Puppet Little White crushed a dozen sandworms that were flying toward it. Suddenly, yellow blood splattered everywhere. Countless sandworms fell to the ground and turned into corpses. After all, Puppet Little White's combat power was comparable to a level 3 martial master expert. Although there were many sandworms around it, most of their magic power waves were around the middle mystic rank. They were no match for Puppet Little White. Moreover, Puppet Little White was not an ordinary human martial artist. Not only was it not afraid of death, but it also did not know fear and fatigue. No matter how many sandworms there were, they could not stop Little White's massacre. They could only die in vain and turn into a pile of corpses. In just a short while, the surroundings were filled with a large number of sandworm corpses. Under the Puppet Little White's massacre, more than half of the originally large number of sandworms had been killed or injured. Yellow bloodstains and monster cores that no one picked up were everywhere. Hiss! At this time, some of the sandworms let out a strange cry. The next moment, they began to retreat slowly. They seemed to have developed fear and did not dare to move forward. Good fella, I didn't refine your blood essence for nothing these few days. You're quite impressive. In the sky, Fei Ren was also gratified as he looked at puppet Little White that was slaughtering the sandworms on the ground as if it was invincible. Dealing with these weak sandworms was not worth his time. He only had eyes for the adult sandworm king. Croc, croc. Just as these sandworms began to retreat in fear, puppet Little White also acted out of character. It did not take the initiative to attack. Instead, it stopped on the spot. Its entire skeleton began to tremble slightly and made a series of throbbing sounds. What's going on? Looking at the strange changes of puppet Little White on the ground below, Fei Ren, who was in the sky, also received a hint of mental feedback as the other party's master. Due to the massacre of the sandworms, Little White had developed an instinctive reaction, which was to take the initiative to devour the blood essence. I didn't expect a puppet to have an instinctive reaction. When he thought of this, Fei Ren could not help but reveal a hint of surprise on his face. Currently, puppet Little White wanted to devour the blood essence of the sandworms around it to advance and break through. Moreover, this was not his intention. Instead, it was an instinctive reaction. Even if this reaction was not strong, as a puppet, it was already very miraculous. Go, Little White. Fei Ren's heart skipped a beat. He immediately agreed with Little White's instinctive reaction. Puppet Little White was a rare combat force under his command. Now that Little White wanted to devour the blood essence to advance and break through, he naturally would not stop it. Croc. After obtaining Fei Ren's permission, puppet Little White was finally free. Its body flashed and charged out again. Then it killed the sandworms on its own. Boom! Groups of sandworms fell like wheat being cut down. At the same time, a large amount of blood essence splattered on the ground and was absorbed by puppet Little White. In less than 15 minutes, the sandworms were completely annihilated. After absorbing a huge amount of essence blood, the puppet Little White's originally white and flawless skeleton was suffused with a trace of dark red and thin threads. It was as if it was about to give birth to real flesh and blood. It was extremely strange. In addition, puppet Little White's aura had also soared by several times. It had actually reached level 6 martial master realm. In terms of realm, it had surpassed its master, Fei Ren. Oh my god, it's so powerful. At this moment, looking at puppet Little White whose strength had soared, Fei Ren, the master, could not remain calm. His face was filled with surprise, and at the same time his eyes flashed. After absorbing a large amount of blood essence of the sandworms, puppet Little White's advancement this time was also beyond his expectations. Not only had its strength soared by several times, comparable to a level 6 martial master realm expert, but it had also produced a trace of instinctive reaction. Fei Ren even had a shocking thought in his heart. In the future, puppet Little White might be able to give birth to true intelligence, just like a living creature. After all, puppet Little White had almost given birth to flesh and blood. For an ordinary puppet, this was simply an impossible miracle. It shouldn't be that exaggerated, right? That would be too abnormal. Thinking of this, Fei Ren swallowed his saliva and then withdrew his thoughts. Chapter 426. Boom! Just as Little White succeeded in leveling up, another loud noise came from deep underground. The next moment, a gigantic sandworm that was several stories tall broke out of the ground. The giant sandworm was ferocious. It opened its mouth wide and stared at Little White, who was not far away. Although it had no eyes, one could still feel the killing intent and demonic power on its body. It was the king of sandworms. At this moment, the surrounding sandworms had been slaughtered by the puppet Little White. The adult sandworm king finally couldn't hold it in any longer, and it came out of the ground to kill its way out. King of sandworms. At this moment, Fei Ren was also delighted to see the king of sandworms rushing out from the depths of the ground. Since he left the Scorching Sun sect, he had been looking for the king of sandworms. Now that he had stepped into the underground world of the ancestral mausoleum, he finally found an adult king of sandworms. Go, Little White. Now that the king of sandworms had appeared, Fei-Ren would not let it go so easily. He immediately ordered Puppet Little White to attack. Crack! Puppet Little White held the bone blades with both hands. After its strength had increased, Puppet Little White's body had also become bigger, although it was still small compared to the king of sandworms. Whoosh! White-E's figure flickered, and in the next moment, the bone blades in its hands shot out like two sharp arrows, aiming at the king of sandworms' vital points. Although the king of sandworms was not weak, it was still a worm. No matter how agile it was, it would still die if it was hit in the vital part of its body. Bang! Facing Puppet Little White's attack, the king of sandworms quickly twisted its body and dodged the bone blades. At the same time, it opened its mouth and bit at Puppet Little White. Its attack was not weak. The king of sandworms' sharp teeth were one of its main weapons. They were so sharp that they could even break through some Tier 4 spiritual treasures and weaker formations. Fei-Ren knew this very well. Although Puppet Little White had leveled up and its strength had increased greatly, it could not be a brute and take the king of sandworms bites head-on. If Puppet Little White was bitten to pieces by this beast, he would be heartbroken and would have to spend a lot of effort to repair it. Chua! Under the control of Fei-Ren, Little White also displayed its small size and agility. While dodging the attacks of the king of sandworms, it used its bone blade to stab at its opponent's vital points. The king of sandworms usually had two vital points. One was its abdomen, and the other was its ears. Although the sandworm king was huge and brown like a moving cotton candy, its body surface was extremely rough. There were small yellow lumps on it, which were difficult for ordinary spirit treasures and origin energy to break. Only by attacking its vital parts could one kill it in one blow. The weakness of the Sandworm King's defense was its abdomen and ears. The reason was simple. The Sandworm King did not have eyes and relied on its hearing. If its ears were injured, it would lose its sense of hearing and become a big blind worm. It was the same for its abdomen. The abdomen of the Rockworm King was different from the other parts of its body. There were no yellow lumps on it, and its defensive ability was greatly reduced. Attack its lower body. In the sky, there was another shout. In the next moment, Puppet Little White's attacks became even more piercingly cold. A bone blade swept across and actually ruthlessly smashed into the king's sandworm's abdomen. Poochie! The bone blade pierced the surface of the king's sandworm's abdomen, and blood immediately flowed out. A large amount of turbid yellow pus flowed out, and a pungent smell spread in the air. Due to the double advantage of its size and speed, Puppet Little White displayed its invincible power. It gradually turned from passive to active. Not only did it dissolve the king's sandworm's attacks one by one, but it also injured it at the same time. This, with its abdomen injured, the king's sandworm let out a shrill cry. In the next moment, it gave up chasing Puppet Little White and plunged into the depths of the ground. On the desolate sand slope, as the king's sandworm burrowed into the ground, the surroundings kept shaking as if it was preparing for the next round of attacks. Wild Sand Ambush It was one of the king's sandworm's exclusive killer moves. It would usually hide underground and then break out of the ground at an extremely fast speed. It would then use its sharp teeth to catch the enemy off guard. If one was not careful, one might end up in the king's sandworm's stomach. Now, the king's sandworm was completely infuriated by Puppet Little White's frequent harassment. It also used its life-saving killer move. Trying to run? Seeing the king's sandworm burrowing into the ground, Fei-Ren narrowed his eyes. It was not easy for him to find an adult king sandworm. Naturally, he would not let it go so easily. He had to get the 5-star sect mission and the king's sandworm's head. The king's sandworm burrowed into the ground. At this moment, Puppet Little White had lost its target. It immediately stopped in midair with a blank look in its eyes. After all, it was just a puppet without self-consciousness. It only had battle instincts and needed to rely on Fei-Ren's guidance. Boom! Just as Fei-Ren was considering whether he should take action himself, another tremor came from the desolate sand slope. The Sandworm King, which had been hiding for a long time, broke out of the ground again. It had found an opportunity to launch a surprise attack. It opened its mouth and bit at the puppet Whitey in the air. Swoosh! Crack! Puppet Little White could not react in time. Although it dodged the king sandworm's surprise attack in time, its left arm was bitten off by the king sandworm. Its bones instantly shattered, and the bone blade in its hand fell to the ground. After all, the king sandworm was a medium spiritual level demonic beast. Its power and destructive power were not to be underestimated. Although Puppet Little White's strength had soared to LV6 Martial Master, it still could not withstand the king sandworm's full force bite. Beast! How dare you hurt my puppet? Seeing the king sandworm's sneak attack and injuring Puppet Little White, Fei Ren finally attacked personally. He blasted a golden fist force across the air. Boom! The golden fist force crossed the sky and rolled up a bright origin energy tail. It was like a meteor falling from the sky. Its momentum was like a rainbow as it instantly smashed into the king sandworm's weak abdomen. Hiss! In an instant, blood splattered. The king sandworm also let out a miserable cry. Then, its huge body crashed to the ground, causing a series of dust to rise. One could vaguely see that the king sandworm's abdomen had been pierced by Fei Ren's punch. Blood flowed out unstoppably from the wound. Even the demonic energy fluctuation on the king sandworm's body had plummeted. It had been severely injured. Compared to Puppet Little White's attack, Fei Ren's casual punch was more domineering. It was comparable to the full force attack of a LV8 Martial Master. Not to mention the king sandworm in front of him, Fei Ren did not even care about the other experts in the 5 major tribes, except for Indra and Zhang Han. Now that his origin energy cultivation had broken through to LV4 Martial Master, Fei Ren's strength was no longer the same as before. Damn it, I almost bit it. Fei Ren recalled Puppet Little White to his side. There was a hint of heartache in his eyes. After all, he had spent a lot of effort on this puppet. If it was bitten to pieces by the king sandworm, it would be a huge loss. I really underestimated this beast's teeth. If I knew this would happen, I would have attacked. Black lines appeared on his face. In the next moment, Fei Ren turned his head to look at the injured king sandworm on the ground. He gritted his teeth. Chapter 427. Although the Sandworm King's demonic energy was only at the middle spiritual rank, its sharp teeth were extremely destructive. If it wasn't for the fact that Little White had absorbed a large amount of Sandworm blood essence, it might have been torn apart by the Sandworm King. Moreover, Fei Ren had underestimated the Sandworm King's destructive power in the beginning. He did not attack immediately and let Little White fight the Sandworm King on its own. Beast, it's time to end this. After putting Little White back into the spirit ring, Fei Ren's figure flickered and disappeared. He then arrived in front of the injured Sandworm King. Boom! Strands of violent golden yuan force gushed out from all over his body. Suddenly, Fei Ren's body grew several feet tall, like a Bodhidharma martial monk. Bodhidharma fist. With a heavy punch, countless rays of golden primary force swept out and raged. Then, they turned into a terrifying golden fist energy. A martial monk phantom appeared on the fist energy. The next moment, the fist energy smashed into the huge body of the king of sandworms. Due to its huge size and the severe injury to its abdomen, the Sandworm King was powerless against Fei Ren's all-out punch. Bang! The fist force broke through the air. A large amount of golden yuan force mixed with the terrifying fist force exploded. The power of Fei Ren's punch was several times stronger than before. In addition to his own yuan force, he also used the power of the Bodhidharma golden body. Its power was enough to kill a level 9 martial master. Hiss! Letting out an incomparably shrill scream, the Rockworm King's body also fell to the ground with a loud bang. More than half of its body had been penetrated by Fei Ren's punch. Yellow blood flowed out incessantly, as if it had suffered a fatal injury, and it no longer had its previous imposing manner. Rumble! Its massive body struggled a few times on the desolate sand slope, emitting a series of rumbling vibrations. After a short while, the Sandworm King finally stopped moving. Its beastly body was devoid of any aura of mana. It was clearly dead. A middle spiritual rank adult Sandworm King was still unable to withstand Fei Rin's all-out punch. Is this the head of the King of Sandworms? What a big guy! After killing the Sandworm King, Fei Rin slowly landed on the ground. The corpse of the Rockworm King in front of him was huge. Even its head was as big as a small house, which was enough to fill all of his mid-rank spiritual rings. Fortunately, Fei Rin had brought 3 intermediate spiritual rings instead of 1, which were more than enough to store the head of the King of Sandworms. Crack! Golden Yuan power emerged in his palm and turned into an extremely sharp golden blade. Fei Rin raised the blade and chopped off the head of the Rockworm King. He then put it into the spirit ring on his finger. The requirement of the 5-star mission he had accepted was to obtain the head of the Sandworm King. Now that he had obtained the head of the Sandworm King, Fei Rin would receive 2,000 contribution points by the time he returned to the Scorching Sun sect and handed in the mission. In the Scorching Sun sect, 2,000 contribution points were a considerable amount of wealth and could be exchanged for many treasures. In other words, even if Fei Rin did not obtain Azir's inheritance treasure in the end, he would not lose anything in this trip to the ancestral mausoleum. Not only did he obtain the head of the King of Sandworms, but his Yuan power cultivation had also reached LV4 Martial Master realm under the double stimulation of the Scarlet Fruit and the 1,000-year Blood Lotus. Zhu Wuchang, when I return, it will be the time of your death. Clenching his fist, Fei Rin's dark eyes were filled with murderous intent. An invisible aura of murderous intent emanated from him, which was daunting. His strength was no longer the same as before. The humiliation at Taiyang Peak and the deep sense of helplessness he felt when facing the inner disciple, Zhu Wuchang, would no longer exist. The Imperial Palace ruins have yet to appear. Now that more and more martial artists have entered the ancestral mausoleum, it's time to explore the depths. Taking a deep breath, Fei Rin collected his thoughts, and a thoughtful look appeared on his handsome face. Although he did not encounter many martial artists along the way, most of them were demonic beasts. However, the traces of demonic beasts were becoming fewer and fewer. It seemed that the continuous influx of martial artists into the ancestral mausoleum had killed most of the low-level demonic beasts in the periphery. In addition, the natural treasures in the periphery of the ancestral mausoleum were becoming fewer and fewer. Almost all of them had been harvested. As for Fei Rin being able to obtain the 300-year Scarlet Fruit and the 1,000-year Blood Lotus, it was more or less due to luck. If it were not for the bloodthirsty ancient vine, which had amazing destructive power and protected the Scarlet Fruit and the 1,000-year Blood Lotus, the 2 natural treasures would have been taken by other martial artists before Fei Rin and Timur arrived. Therefore, Fei Rin had no reason to stay in the periphery. If he wanted to obtain greater opportunities and the inheritance treasures of the Martial King realm, he could only go deeper into the ancestral mausoleum. Before that, I have to repair Little White. Summoning the damaged puppet Little White from the spiritual ring, Fei Rin made a gesture with both hands. Then, he muttered and began to operate the 9 puppet arts. Although the King of Sandworm's corpse was not valuable, the large amount of blood essence left behind was useful. If he could absorb the blood essence of a Sandworm King, not only would he be able to heal Little White's injuries, but he would also be able to help Little White advance to the next level. The effect was many times better than absorbing the blood essence of ordinary sandworms. In addition, Fei Rin was in a hurry to repair Little White because he had another intention. At present, countless eyes were fixed on the inheritance treasures left behind by Azir. Even the Night Demon Fairy was vaguely among them. When the time came, his opponents would be extremely powerful. Therefore, he did not dare to underestimate them. He had to maintain his strength at the peak at all times, and he had to have many trump cards. As for Little White, it was one of his most powerful trump cards. Not only was its strength comparable to a LV6 Martial Master Realm expert, but it was also loyal to him. Puppets were different from living creatures. They did not have intelligence and would only listen to their master's command, even if it was to die alone. The way of puppets originated from the far west of the Black Star continent. It was a secret skill unique to the Western continent. A martial artist who was proficient in the way of puppets might not be strong, but the endless number of puppets under his command was enough to destroy a powerful family or even a sect. After a while, after devouring the blood essence of the king of Sandworm's corpse, Little White finally recovered to its peak state. Its aura was stronger than before. Its bones were tougher than before. Swoosh! After repairing Little White, Faerun left the desolate sand slope and flew toward the depths of the ancestral mausoleum. He did not know the exact location of the Imperial Palace ruins. Therefore, he could only think of a way to meet up with Zhang Han and the rest, or ask the people of the other 4 tribes for information. The owner of the mausoleum, the ruler of the Desert Dynasty, Azir, was a martial king realm expert. Faerun would be lying if he said that he was not interested in the inheritance treasures left behind by him. Chapter 428. Compared to the periphery, the situation in the depths of the ancestral tomb was more complicated and dangerous. In less than an hour, Faerun had encountered no less than 4 or 5 waves of demonic beasts. Just the monster cores of the profound rank and above alone, he had already collected dozens of them. Furthermore, he had purposely kept the monster cores of the high profound rank and above. The rest of the monster cores of lower value had all been discarded by Faerun. In addition, there were also many interception conflicts from human warriors. Among them, there were some experts from the 5 major tribes. It seemed that everyone wanted to kill and rob in the ancestral tomb. After all, there were countless opportunities in the ancestral tomb, which attracted countless rogue cultivators. Sometimes, it was easier and faster to kill people than to search for treasures. Crack! He raised his hand and broke the neck of an expert. In the next moment, Faerun took the spiritual ring from his body. At the same time, he used the smelting Immortal Cauldron to refine and absorb the remaining life essence, turning it into pure Yuan force. His Yuan force cultivation increased by a little. Licking his lips, Faerun did not stay and continued on his way. The expert who attacked him was from the Barchi tribe. His cultivation was not high, but it was not low either. He was only a LV6 martial master and could kill him in 1 move. This dead expert of the tribe was also an unlucky old man. Of all the people he could kill, he just had to find trouble with Faerun. In the end, his head was separated from his body, and not even his corpse was left behind. Although Faerun's Yuan force cultivation was only at the LV4 martial master realm, his strength was comparable to a LV9 martial master realm expert. In the entire Scorching Sun sect, he could be ranked among the inner disciples and was one of the best among them. Therefore, the expert from the Barchi tribe had kicked an iron plate and lost his life in vain. A Tier 4 spiritual treasure, 200,000 low-grade primordial stones, 500 mid-grade primordial stones, a few crystal ores, and some miscellaneous items. Are all the people from the 5 major tribes so rich? Looking inside himself with Yuan force, Faerun's eyes lit up when he found that there were many good things stored in the spiritual ring of the Barchi tribe expert. For other cultivators, apart from low-grade and middle-grade primal stones, these rare crystal ores and 4th-grade spirit treasures might not be of much use. However, Faerun was different. His Dantian had fused with the only immortal Dao treasure in the universe, the Immortal Refining Cauldron. Ever since a part of the strange inscriptions on the Immortal Refining Cauldron had been restored, his devouring and refining ability had been greatly enhanced. Now he could directly devour spirit treasures and other items to directly improve his cultivation. As for these rare crystal ores, it was the same. Faerun could use the Immortal Refining Cauldron to devour and refine anything that had a trace of spiritual qi. Devour. While they were on the way, Faerun was not stingy with these things. He threw them into the Immortal Refining Cauldron and began to refine and absorb them. 4th-tier spirit treasures, a large number of profound level monster cores, various primal stones, and rare crystal ores, as well as the medicinal herbs that Faerun had collected in the ancestral tomb these days. All of these were thrown into the divine Immortal Cauldron. It was like a hot pot of mandarin ducks. In the next moment, the Immortal refining cauldron also let out a series of vibrations. At the same time, green smoke rose in all directions and instantly devoured all of these treasures. They turned into strands of pure heaven and earth origin energy and nourished Fei Ren's dantian. Boom! Not long after, a throbbing came from the depths of his dantian. In the next moment, Fei Ren's face was filled with joy. After devouring so many treasures, his origin energy cultivation had increased by a lot. He was less than a quarter of his origin energy cultivation away from breaking through. One had to know that it had only been half a day since Fei Ren had broken through to the 4th level of the Martial Master Realm. Right now, his origin energy cultivation seemed to be on the verge of breaking through. Such a terrifying cultivation speed could be called a genius. Other than the contribution of the Immortal Refining Cauldron, the Dharma 1000 transformation technique also contributed a lot. Exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, Fei Ren did not become arrogant and complacent because of the increase in his cultivation. He knew very well that there was always someone better than him. Although his strength was enough to look down on most martial artists of the same level, there was still a gap between him and the top geniuses of the Southeast region and even the Eastern continent. Boom! At this moment, a sudden clap of thunder came from the sky. In the next moment, dark clouds gathered and thunder rumbled. It was as if the weather had changed. The change in the sky naturally attracted Fei Ren's attention. What a terrifying thundercloud! Fei Ren's body froze. He immediately raised his head to look at the sky, and a hint of surprise flashed across his eyes. Accompanied by the sound of thunder, a cluster of incomparably black thunderclouds with surging lightning suddenly appeared in the high altitude of the cloud layer. Lightning crisscrossed within it, appearing like numerous roaring lightning snakes. At the same time, a terrifying aura was emitted outwards, and this terrifying aura made even Fei Ren's heart palpitate. His eyes were filled with shock. Such a terrifying thundercloud. Even a half-step to martial spirit realm expert would probably die if he was entangled by it. Fei Ren's intuition told him that the terrifying thundercloud in the sky above the clouds was powerful enough to kill a half-step to martial spirit realm expert. Just the roaring thunder snakes in the thundercloud alone were not comparable to the strength of ordinary martial artists. Any thunder snake could tear apart an expert below LV 6 martial master realm. Such a phenomenon of heaven and earth could only be encountered by chance. This time, Fei Ren was able to encounter the phenomenon of the thundercloud more or less because of luck. Boom, boom, boom. Thunder continued to rumble in the sky as the thundercloud continued to expand. In a short while, it had covered half of the sky. Lightning snakes coiled around it as if it had reached the peak of its power. Even the surrounding birds and beasts scattered and fled, not daring to stay in the slightest. I wonder if the power of the Dharma golden body can withstand the power of the thundercloud. At this moment, Fei Ren actually had a crazy idea as he felt the terrifying remaining power of the thunderclouds coming from the clouds above. Thunder body refining. The terrifying thundercloud in the sky contained a huge amount of thunder power. Now, Fei Ren's Dharma 1000 transformation technique had gradually reached a bottleneck. He had not broken through to the complete realm and was unable to condense a complete Dharma Golden Buddha body. If he could use the power of the thundercloud in the sky, he might be able to break through the shackles and condense a complete Dharma Golden Buddha body. Although the power of the thundercloud was terrifying, as long as Fei Ren did not enter the depths of the thundercloud alone, his life would not be in danger. Facing the roaring thunder, snakes wreaking havoc in the thunderclouds, Fei Ren still had some confidence. After all, he had the refining Immortal Cauldron, Dharma Golden Body, Puppet Little White, and other trump cards. In addition, as he had been tempering his body for a long time and swallowed the blood essence stone and other treasures, Fei Ren's body was not comparable to an ordinary martial artist. It was comparable to a body-refining martial artist in the outside world. Now, He could even crush a spiritual treasure below the 4th grade with his bare hands. It was enough to show the strength of his body. Therefore, this time, trying to use the power of the thundercloud to break through the shackles of the cultivation method, Fei Run was not seeking death. He was confident. Chapter 429. Boom! At this moment, there was another roar in the sky, followed by a torrential downpour. Boom! He used his elemental energy to form a protective barrier, isolating himself from the rain. In the next moment, Fei Ren also began to circulate the Dharma 1000 transformation technique, at the same time trying to attract the attention of the thundercloud in the sky. Dharma Fist. Summoning all the elemental energy in his body, Fei Run threw a punch towards the sky. A large amount of golden fist energy swept out, at the same time rushing into the sky, smashing towards the terrifying thundercloud in the sky. Although the thundercloud in the sky was a natural phenomenon, it did not target anyone. However, due to Fei Ren's full-force punch, the thundercloud seemed to have been provoked. Immediately, the roar became louder and countless lightning snakes appeared. Boom! Suddenly, a lightning snake as thick as a bucket fell from the sky and then directly fell in the direction of Fei Ren. Wherever the lightning snake went, it was filled with a destructive energy wave. In an instant, countless plants and trees were turned into ashes. Only black smoke could be seen surrounding it, causing one's heart to palpitate. Is it coming? Below, seeing the terrifying lightning snake flying towards him, Fei Ren immediately circulated his elemental energy to protect his body. At the same time, the Dharma golden body was fully activated. His entire body was dozens of feet tall, and his entire body was enveloped by waves of scarlet golden light. Attracting lightning to temper the body was a competition of physical strength. However, Fei Ren did not dare to be careless enough to directly use his physical body to withstand the bombardment of these lightning snakes. Therefore, he still needed to make some defensive preparations. Crash! He instantly took off the clothes on his upper body, revealing his strong, wheat-colored muscles. In the next moment, Fei Ren's eyes were solemn, and at the same time, they revealed a trace of determination. Come on! Boom! In less than a breath's time, the terrifying roaring lightning snake suddenly attacked, and then fiercely bombarded Fei Ren's body. Ugh! The protective elemental energy instantly shattered, and he directly took the attack of the lightning snake. Even with the protection of the Dharma golden body, Fei Ren's expression was still not good. A trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth, as if he had suffered some injuries. The aura on his body also dropped a little. Chila, accompanied by the sound of flesh tearing, Fei Ren's body trembled slightly. At the same time, he was drenched in sweat and almost fell to the ground. What a powerful lightning power! Fei Ren could clearly sense that this lightning snake had not only drilled into his body, but was also continuously surging towards his dantian and the surrounding meridians. Along the way, it caused a sharp pain and numbness, as if his blood was about to be burnt. Although the destructive power of this lightning snake was very strong, rampaging through the meridians in his body, it was as if it had entered an unstoppable realm. However, under the stimulation of the power of lightning, Fei Ren's physique was gradually strengthening. At the same time, the Dharma 1000 transformation technique also faintly improved a little. The bottleneck of the technique that had been stagnant finally showed signs of loosening. It really works. Sensing the changes in his body, Fei Ren was also overjoyed. At the same time, just as Fei Ren was using the power of lightning to cultivate his technique, the battle in the ancestral mausoleum was getting more and more brutal. Large amounts of fighting did not reduce the number of martial artists entering the ancestral mausoleum. Instead, the number of martial artists entering the ancestral mausoleum was increasing. Deep in the ancestral mausoleum, in front of a cliff. Who are you? A middle-aged man with disheveled blonde hair struggled to get up and spat out a mouthful of black blood. At the same time, He looked at the opposite side in horror. Not far away, a man in white stood quietly. The aura around him was like a coiling dragon. At this moment, he was breathing clouds and exhaling fog that twined up and down. Even if one was only a few feet away from him, one could feel a strong sense of oppression that made one's heart palpitate. A loose cultivator from the dragon sect. The corner of the man's mouth rose as he spoke faintly. The dragon sect? What is that? Hearing this, the blond middle-aged man was stunned at first. Then, he clenched his fists tightly, and there was a hint of fear in his eyes. His name was Jinsha, and he was the eldest son of the current Bard Shi tribe's chief. His origin power cultivation had reached level 8 martial master, and he was not weak. However, he was still no match for the man in white opposite him. The man in white's strength had far exceeded Jinsha's imagination. He had never felt such a strong sense of oppression, even in front of his father. Moreover, he had never heard of the dragon sect that the man mentioned. Idiot, you've never heard of the dragon sect. You're really just a barbarian trash. Glancing at Jinsha, the man in white looked at him with disdain, as if he was looking at an ant. What? Faced with the mockery, Jinsha's face immediately flushed red. As the young chief of the Bard Shi tribe, one of the 5 major tribes, he had never been humiliated like this. Now, being called a barbarian trash by the man in white, even if he was no match for him, Jinsha was furious. Damn it, father and the rest haven't arrived yet. Although Jinsha was furious, he was afraid of the man's terrifying strength and did not attack immediately. Instead, he silently circulated his origin power and looked at the man in white opposite him with vigilance. In order to find the palace ruins, he and the other experts of the Bard Shi tribe, including her and the rest, had split up. As their forces were scattered, he was alone, and there were no other experts of the Bard Shi tribe present. Even if the reinforcements arrive, they won't be able to save you in the end. Go to hell. Seemingly unwilling to waste time with Jinsha, the man in white smiled coldly in the next moment. At the same time, origin power surged in his palm, and a pure white, coiling dragon swept out. It was as if the dragon god had descended to the mortal world and was mighty. No! Faced with the man in white's attack, Jinsha widened his eyes and let out a cry of despair. The next moment, he was swallowed by the huge, coiling dragon, and not even a trace of his body was left. A level 8 martial master expert was killed in one move. Although Jinsha was not weak, it was still difficult for him to escape under the absolute difference in strength. The aura of the man in white was boundless. Even though he had killed Jinsha in one move, he did not seem to have used his full strength. Such terrifying strength and killing a level 8 martial master expert in one move could only be done by a martial spirit realm expert. There's also a powerful origin power, aura. After dealing with Jinsha, the white-robed man suddenly spoke with a doubtful expression. At the same time, he frowned slightly. Above level 6 martial spirit realm. Who is it? Looking to the side of the sky, the man in white restrained his expression and pondered. Just a moment ago, he suddenly sensed a powerful origin power aura that was not weaker than his. Even though this powerful elemental energy aura had only flashed by for a moment, it was not enough to escape his detection. Most of the martial artists who had entered the ancestral mausoleum were below the martial spirit realm. Among them, there were only a few martial spirit realm experts. Baluo tribe leader Indra could be considered one. As for those above level 6 martial spirit realm, he had never seen them before. No matter who you are, the things left behind by a martial king will belong to me in the end. Retracting his gaze, the man in white smiled coldly and then disappeared as if he had never appeared. Chapter 430. The chaos outside has nothing to do with me. Although the ancestral mausoleum had long since become a pot of porridge at this time, with killing and fighting taking place everywhere, Fei Run was incomparably calm. He was still using the power of thunder to temper his physical body. At the same time, he was trying to break through the Dharma 1000 transformation technique to the complete realm. I've only absorbed one thunder snake. Relying on this little power of thunder, it's far from enough. After exhaling, the pain and numbness in his body gradually subsided. Feiren pondered. With his current physical strength and the Dharma Golden Body's defense, it was not a problem for him to withstand one thunder snake's attack. However, if he wanted to break through quickly and condense the complete Dharma Golden Buddha body, the power of thunder contained in this thunder snake was far from enough. Feiren was very clear about this. Again, determination flashed across his face. Next, he planned to play a big game. He directly guided 3 thunder snakes to bombard his physical body to maximize the effect. Moreover, with Feiren's current physical strength and overall strength, resisting 3 thunder snakes at the same time was his limit. Boom! After a while, under Feiren's frequent provocations, the terrifying thundercloud in the sky was completely enraged. In an instant, countless thunder snakes rushed out and fell from the sky. The momentum was vast and endless. Among them, there were no less than 7 or 8 thunder snakes that directly fell in the direction of Feiren. Oh no, this is too much. Seeing the terrifying thunder snakes coming at him, Feiren's face changed slightly. In an instant, he was shocked. According to his original plan, withstanding 3 thunder snakes at the same time was his limit. However, 7 or 8 terrifying thunder snakes suddenly rushed out of the thundercloud. Moreover, their power was several times stronger than before, greatly exceeding Feiren's expectations. Facing the bombardment of so many lightning snakes, not to mention Feiren, a mere rank 4 martial master, even a half-step to martial spirit realm expert would not dare to face them head-on. The slightest carelessness would lead to death. Boom! In less than a breath's time, the terrifying lightning snake poured down, bringing with it an ear-piercing roar. It was as if the surrounding area was covered by the powerful lightning energy. Damn it! We can only give it a try. Feiren's heart shuddered. At this critical moment, he did not hesitate to summon the divine refining cauldron. The immortal refining cauldron appeared in the air and instantly emitted a mysterious aura. Even in the face of the terrifying lightning snake, it was still as simple as before. At present, Feiren was very clear in his heart that relying solely on the strength of the Bodhidharma Golden Body was simply impossible to withstand the bombardment of 7 or 8 lightning snakes at the same time. If he only used his physical body to withstand the bombardment, there was a high probability that he would be struck to death by these lightning snakes and turned into ashes. Therefore, he could only rely on the power of the immortal refining cauldron. Rumble! The terrifying lightning snake struck Feiren's body in an instant. A large amount of lightning power burst out in an instant. It was as if an army had passed through, crazily destroying his body. Blood flowed and dripped, and his skin and flesh were torn open. In just a few breaths' time, Feiren's entire body was covered in blood. His appearance was terrifying. Feiren sucked in a breath of cold air and endured the intense pain all over his body. He only felt as if his entire body was about to be torn apart by the lightning energy. His originally handsome face was also twisted together, and he looked to be in extreme pain. Although his injuries were so serious, it was already under the dual protection of the immortal refining cauldron and the Bodhidharma Golden Body. In the previous lightning snake bombardment, at least 2/3 of the lightning energy had been neutralized by the immortal refining cauldron and the Bodhidharma Golden Body. However, even though most of the lightning energy had been neutralized, Feiren's body was still unable to withstand it and was almost destroyed. How can a mere thunderbolt kill me? When a person's body was in extreme pain, it was accompanied by numbness and madness. Feiren was like that. In the next moment, he began to gradually absorb the lightning energy to heal his injuries. At the same time, he tried to break through the bottleneck of the Bodhidharma 1000 transformation technique. After an unknown period of time, the terrifying thunderclouds in the sky finally dissipated. The lightning energy that was originally wreaking havoc slowly disappeared as well, and the surroundings returned to normal. At this moment, Faerun still maintained his original posture on the ground. He did not move at all, and his entire body was covered in blood. It was extremely strange. Crack! The soft sound of an eggshell cracking could be heard. In the next moment, the originally motionless Faerun finally reacted. One could see his right thumb trembling slightly. Then, layers of blood scabs broke and fell off, revealing new skin tissue. A few minutes later, a thick layer of blood scabs fell off the ground where Faerun was standing. It was as if a living creature was shedding its skin. Bodhidharma, 1000 transformation technique. Perfect. Faerun clenched his fists tightly. In the next moment, a sharp light shot out from his eyes. His eyes instantly turned extremely red, as if they were dyed with a red glow. It was as if he could pierce through all the evil spirits in the heavens. At the same time, his body emitted a terrifying invisible aura. Boom! At this moment, even if he did not do anything, a powerful pressure was emitted from Faerun's body. Even the ground under his feet deeply caved in, as if it was unable to withstand the impact of this pressure. Swoosh! Suddenly, Faerun raised his hand and punched out. Golden light instantly appeared on his fist, and it was mixed with a frightening aura. Boom! It was just a simple and casual punch, but a stubborn boulder that was several hundred feet tall was shattered into pieces, turning into fine powder on the ground. Even the surrounding air emitted an ear-piercing sound, as though it was indicating that the power of this punch was not ordinary. Bodhidharma, golden Buddha body. Faerun retracted his fist and stood there. In the next moment, he let out a loud shout. At the same time, his aura soared once again. Swoosh! 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 In an instant, countless red and golden lights appeared. Then, Faerun's body grew by more than 2 times. At this moment, his entire body was shrouded in layers of red and golden light. Even his skin was dyed with a red color. At the same time, a red dot appeared between his eyebrows. A lifelike golden Buddha shadow also appeared behind him. It was as if the real Bodhidharma golden Buddha had appeared. It was daunting. Phew, is this the true power of the complete acquired Bodhidharma golden Buddha body? Faerun exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He felt the majestic power in his body that he had never felt before. At this moment, he could not hide his excitement. His eyes were burning. After a long period of lightning tempering his body, not only had his body strengthened again, but the Bodhidharma 1000 transformation technique that had been stagnant for a long time had also successfully broken through and stepped into the final perfect realm. Thus, he had condensed the true acquired Bodhidharma golden Buddha body. Compared to the semi-finished Bodhidharma golden Buddha body, the power of the Bodhidharma golden Buddha body was not only several times stronger, but dozens of times stronger. In addition, due to the previous bombardment of a large number of thunder snakes, Faerun's broken body was gradually recovering. The injuries on his body were almost healed. Chapter 431. Although the Dharma Golden Buddha body was only an acquired mighty body, its power was not inferior to a part of the innate mighty body. Faerun was not a genius born with extraordinary talent. He did not comprehend the innate mighty body, nor did he master the mysterious power of conception. However, his dantian had merged with the immortal refining cauldron. Faerun had yet to fully explore the power of the immortal refining cauldron. With the power of the Dharma Golden Buddha body and the immortal refining cauldron, Faerun could look down on most martial artists of the same generation. He could even compete with the geniuses of some sects and clans in the southeastern region and even the eastern continent. Destiny, luck, and hard work. All 3 were indispensable. Faerun was just a beggar back then. It was extremely difficult for him to even step into the martial arts path. However, ever since he obtained the immortal refining cauldron, his martial arts path was full of surprises. Now, he had both destiny and luck. As long as he continued to work hard, he would have the chance to step into the true peak of martial arts. At the same time, he would uncover the secrets of the dragon sect and his biological parents, the whereabouts of the palace ruins. Fei Rin collected his thoughts and pondered. Now, the Dharma Thousand transformation technique had successfully broken through to the complete realm. He had also formed the complete Dharma Golden Buddha body. His power had increased by more than a few times. It was time to leave this place. The greatest treasure in the ancestral mausoleum was the inheritance left behind by Azir, a martial king. Most of the martial artists and itinerant cultivators who entered the ancestral mausoleum, as well as the experts of the 5 major tribes, were here for it. If they wanted to obtain the inheritance left behind by Azir, they had to find the whereabouts of the palace ruins. Walking deeper into the ancestral mausoleum, other than the dead bodies of demonic beasts, there was a large amount of origin power aura that had yet to dissipate, as well as bloodstains. It was obvious that many conflicts had broken out in the ancestral mausoleum in the past few days. Many demonic beasts had died, and many martial artists were injured. Most of them were fighting for the treasures. As for the martial artists who died, most of them were from different sects and families. Pata! Fei Rin landed on a hillside and scanned the area below. There are traces of fighting here. Looks like they haven't gone far. He saw that the empty ground below was filled with condensed origin power aura. The surroundings were broken trees, scorched earth, and large amounts of mixed blood stains. There were both magical beasts and martial artists among them. It seemed that a fierce battle had just broken out. Whoosh! With a leap, Fei Rin didn't stop and continued forward. Since there was a battle, there were bound to be deaths. He could make a fortune out of the dead. Now that the devouring power of the smelting immortal cauldron had greatly increased, it could devour all kinds of heavenly treasures and even spiritual treasures. If Fei Rin could pick up another batch of treasures, his origin energy cultivation that had just broken through might break through again and step into the LV5 martial master realm. In front of an open space, a few young warriors had solemn expressions. Among them, the leader was a handsome man in luxurious clothes. His strength was neither high nor low. He had just reached LV9 martial master realm. In the outside world, he could be considered a genius. However, the handsome man and the others were currently surrounded by a large group of ferocious demonic beasts. The magical beasts that surrounded everyone looked very strange. They had small, pointy heads, and their pupils were strange, deep blue. At the same time, their bodies were covered with a thick layer of black armor. It seemed that their defense was not bad. At this moment, they were staring at everyone with a fierce gaze. Their cries were also very strange. The iron-eating beast was a type of magical beast that liked to eat fine iron ores, and its blood was mixed with a trace of the bloodline of the ancient crystal-devouring beast. Thus, the defensive strength of its body was shocking, and it was difficult for ordinary spirit treasures and elemental energy attacks to break through. Moreover, its speed was very agile. An adult iron-eating beast's magic power would at least reach the low level of the spiritual rank, which was comparable to a LV4 martial master realm expert. At this moment, these people were surrounded by a group of iron-eating beasts. Moreover, as far as the eye could see, there were quite a number of iron-eating beasts. There were at least 30 of them. Damn it, we've been surrounded by these beasts. At the side, a young martial artist said anxiously, his tone faintly panicked. His elemental energy cultivation was only at the LV5 martial master realm, which was worlds apart from the handsome man beside him. With his strength, it was not a problem to deal with 1 or 2 iron-eating beasts. However, what surrounded them was a complete group of iron-eating beasts. There were more than 30 adult iron-eating beasts. If these iron-eating beasts swarmed over, it was likely that among the few people present, except for the handsome man who was at the LV9 martial master realm, everyone else would die and become food in the stomach of this group of iron-eating beasts. Shenlinha, if we can't break out of this encirclement, any opportunities and treasures will have nothing to do with us. As soon as the voice fell, a young woman in a light gauze dress said in a deep voice. At the same time, she looked at the handsome man in front of her. The other party's name was Shunlinha, and he came from a rank 7 family in the southeast region. His strength and talent were not weak, and he was also the leader of their team. This time, when the ancestral mausoleum opened, they had heard the news and planned to go to the ancestral mausoleum to look for opportunities. However, their luck was not very good. Before they could find many treasures, they were surrounded by a group of ferocious iron-eating beasts and fell into a dangerous situation. Misty, don't panic. This group of beasts can't do anything to us. Faced with the woman's probing, Shunlinha only smiled faintly, as if he already had a plan. However, in the face of Shunlinha's confidence, the woman in the plain dress did not think so. She frowned slightly and said, Shunlinha, with your strength, you can indeed escape unscathed, but we can't break out of the encirclement of the iron-eating beasts. Could it be that you want us to die for nothing? At the end of her words, the woman in the plain dress tone became more and more serious. At the same time, a trace of vigilance flashed across her eyes as she looked at Shunlinha. With her understanding of the man in front of her, he might indeed betray his companions for benefits. Moreover, in the world of martial artists where the strong preyed on the weak, this was nothing new. Why don't we just hand over those little bastards? Maybe these iron-eating beasts will retreat on their own. Swallowing his saliva, the young martial artist from before suggested again with an uneasy tone. The reason why they were surrounded by this group of iron-eating beasts was not without reason. Before that, Shunlinha had stolen a few iron-eating beast cubs from an iron-eating beast lair. As a result, they had alarmed the entire group of iron-eating beasts and were crazily pursued. Originally, their team was far more than just these few people. It was precisely because of the pursuit of the iron-eating beast that a few people had died along the way. Although his cultivation base was only at the 5th level of the Martial Master realm and was at the bottom of the team, inferior to Shunlinha and the woman in the plain dress, this young martial artist did not want to die for nothing. His heart wavered. Shut up. However, in the face of this young martial artist's suggestion, Shunlinha's face darkened and a murderous intent shot out from his eyes. It was not easy for him to obtain a few iron-eating beast cubs, so he naturally would not give them up so easily. Moreover, the value of the iron-eating beast cubs was extraordinary. They were born with a keen sense of smell for crystal ores, origin stones, and other spiritual objects. Not only could they be trained as demonic pets in the future, but they could also be used as biological detectors to search for crystal ores and origin stone veins. Therefore, Shunlinha could not agree to voluntarily hand over the iron-eating beast cubs that he had obtained with great difficulty. Chapter 432. Brother Shun. The young martial artist wanted to speak again, but when he saw Shunlinha's pair of furious, blood-red eyes, he immediately retracted his words with a resentful expression. The other party was not only the leader of their team, but also the strongest. His origin energy cultivation had already reached the 9th level of the Martial Master realm. Therefore, facing the powerful Shunlinha, this young martial artist did not dare to say anything for fear of getting into trouble. After all, with the other party's strength, he could kill him with a casual slap. For the sake of those iron-eating beast cubs, many of us have already died. These bastards do not have much intelligence. Even if we hand over the cubs in our hands, we will still have to fight a bloody battle in the end. I feel that this is too much of a loss. A man in martial arts clothes stepped forward and held his weapon horizontally in front of him with a solemn expression. Tung Feng, the young master of the Tung family, a 7th-rank family in the Huainan region. His origin energy cultivation had already reached the 8th level of the Martial Master realm, second only to Shunlinha in the team. The Huainan region was also one of the many continents in the southeastern region, similar to the Scorching Sun Sex Danyang region. These beasts are not easy to deal with. The woman in a plain dress looked at Tung Feng with her beautiful eyes and said in a serious tone, although the iron-eating beast cubs were worth a lot, one had to be alive to take them. How can we let the ducks in our hands fly away? You guys shouldn't be happy either, right? Facing the woman's question, Tung Feng curled his lips and disagreed. At this moment, not only the woman in a plain dress, but the other young martial artists also looked at each other and remained silent, as if they agreed with the other party's opinion. It would be a lie to say that they were not tempted by the iron-eating beast cubs. Otherwise, they would not have fought all the way here and been surrounded by the iron-eating beast horde. Let's kill our way out. Seeing that no one had any objections, Shun Linha snorted coldly again. At the same time, the origin energy around his body continued to surge, as if he was planning to open a bloody path and break through the encirclement of the iron-eating beast horde. At this moment, the iron-eating beast horde that surrounded them also let out a strange roar. It was like a snake flicking its tongue, and its aura became even more ferocious. Rumble! In the next moment, a few iron-eating beasts pounced towards Shun Linha and the others, stirring up waves of dust and fog, causing the ground to tremble. Although the strength of these iron-eating beasts was inferior to Shun Linha and the others in a one-on-one battle, the reason why a herd of beasts was called a herd was because of their combined fighting ability. Facing dozens of charging iron-eating beasts, even an LV-10 Martial Master or a half-step to Martial Spirit Realm Expert would not be able to escape unscathed. Scram! As the beast horde attacked, Shun Linha let out a roar. At the same time, his palms stirred up the wind and instantly blasted out dozens of purple-gold origin force chi rays. Boom! Hiss! Hiss! Yuan Li Chi streaked across the sky and then fiercely bombarded the heads of a few iron-eating beasts. Immediately, blood splattered and a series of rumbling sounds were heard. The iron-eating beasts were also in great pain, and their figures abruptly retreated. They were already heavily injured. After all, the magic fluctuations of these iron-eating beasts were only at the low spiritual rank. The few iron-eating beasts in front of them were simply no match for Shun Linha. Just as Shun Linha forced the attacks of these iron-eating beasts to retreat, the other people were also engaged in a fierce battle with the surrounding iron-eating beasts. For a moment, the battle was anxious. Flower Fairy Sword Technique. The woman in a simple dress, jade-like hand trembled slightly, and then she took out a sharp and small light green longsword from her spirit ring. In the next moment, the longsword swept across and instantly killed 2 iron-eating beasts. The sword chi did not dissipate, and it seemed to be a powerful martial art. Hiss! Shocked by the strength of the woman in a simple dress, or perhaps because they smelled the blood of their companions' corpses, the few iron-eating beasts that were originally pouncing overstopped. A trace of fear appeared in their beastly eyes as they looked at the woman in a simple dress. What a powerful sword! Yiling, I didn't expect your cultivation to have broken through. Similarly, the young master of the Tongue family, Tongue Feng, who had also repelled the encirclement of a few iron-eating beasts with a punch, slowly landed beside the woman in a simple dress and spoke with slight surprise. The other party was a genius disciple of the 7th grade sect, the Flower Fairy sect. Her cultivation was already at the 7th grade Martial Master realm, and she had come to the ancestral mausoleum by chance this time. I just broke through by luck. Ignoring Tongue Feng's surprise, the woman in a simple dress stabbed the light green long sword in her hand again. Surging origin energy, sword chi burst forth and pierced through the body of another iron-eating beast. The hard black armor was instantly pierced through, and blood flowed onto the ground. Originally, her origin energy cultivation was only at the 7th grade Martial Master realm. However, after entering the ancestral mausoleum, she had broken through and stepped into the 8th grade Martial Master realm as she wished after a period of battle experience. As for the sect behind Yiling, the Flower Fairy sect, it was also a powerful 7th grade sect in the Huainan region. Its foundation and strength were not inferior to the 7th grade Tongue family behind Tongue Feng. As a genius disciple of the Flower Fairy sect, Yiling's strength was naturally not weak. Facing the siege of a few low-grade spiritual rank iron-eating beasts, she was still able to handle it with ease. Die! Another palm blasted out, and a powerful palm chi swept out in all directions, instantly killing a few iron-eating beasts. Facing the siege of a group of iron-eating beasts, Shenlinhe seemed to be getting fiercer and fiercer as he fought. For a moment, his aura was like a rainbow. Although Shenlinhe, Tongfeng, and He Ling had the upper hand, the situation of the others was not so good. They gradually fell into a disadvantage and fell into a dangerous situation. In a moment of carelessness, the young martial artist at the 5th grade martial master realm had his left arm bitten off by an iron-eating beast on the spot. In the next moment, he only let out a miserable shriek before he was eaten by a few iron-eating beasts that followed closely behind. They tore him into pieces of blood, and not even his corpse was left behind. That bloody scene not only made everyone vomit, but even He Ling, who was at the side, frowned. Her pretty face was somewhat unsightly. Although the few of them had killed a few iron-eating beasts and repelled a portion of their siege, the iron-eating beasts around them were a group. There were simply too many of them, and there were more than 30 of them. More than 30 spirit-rank magical beasts, and some of them were huge in size. Their magic power fluctuations had even reached the rare intermediate spirit rank. Right now, with just Shenlinhe, Tongfeng, and He Ling, it would be difficult to turn the tide and kill their way out of the encirclement in a short period of time. We can't go on like this. Once again, she forced back the siege of several iron-eating beasts with a single sword strike. He Ling's pretty face slightly froze. Find an opportunity to kill our way out. Tongfeng's tone was heavy. If they continued to fight, they would run out of origin energy sooner or later. The only way was to find an opportunity to break out. Perhaps it was because of his powerful strength, but while Tongfeng and He Ling were in a bitter battle, Shenlinhe received the special attention of the iron-eating beasts. In a few breaths, more than a dozen iron-eating beasts broke free from the battle and turned to attack Shenlinhe on the other side. Although a portion of their kind had died, the number of iron-eating beasts in front of them was still not small. There were still more than 20 iron-eating beasts, and a third of them were large intermediate spirit rank iron-eating beasts. These bastards, do they really think they can defeat me with their numbers advantage? Seeing the large group of iron-eating beasts give up on chasing Tongfeng, He Ling, and the others and turn to attack him, Shenlinhe was also stunned. Then, killing intent and anger surfaced in his heart, as if he had been provoked. Chapter 433. Purple Light Extermination Palm. Facing the swarm of iron-eating beasts, Shenlinhe no longer held back. Immediately, a shocking aura of origin power erupted, and his body was enveloped by strands of purple light. Die! A palm blasted out, and a large amount of origin power turned into a biting cold purple palm energy. Like the autumn wind sweeping the fallen leaves, it instantly swept towards the group of iron-eating beasts. This purple light exterminating palm was an authentic quasi-rank 6 martial art. At the same time, it was also Shenlinhe's unique skill. Coupled with his LV9 martial mentor realm cultivation, its power increased again and again. Demonic beasts below the advanced spiritual level would find it difficult to resist. Bang! Rumble! A large amount of purple palm energy swept out like a huge purple whirlwind. Everywhere it went, blood flew. Along the way, countless iron-eating beasts fell, turning into cold corpses. They had no power to resist at all. With just one palm, nearly half of the iron-eating beasts were killed. The surroundings were a mess of blood and broken beast corpses. Huff! His body staggered and landed on the ground. After using such a powerful palm, Shenlinhe had consumed a lot of energy and his face was faintly pale. The palm just now had instantly drained 1/3 of the origin power in his dantian. Although the purple light extermination palm was powerful, with Shenlinhe's current cultivation of level 9 martial master, he could at most use it 3 times. Good chance. Kill our way out. On the other side, when they saw Shenlinhe kill nearly half of the iron-eating beasts by himself, Tongfeng, He Ling, and the others were slightly delighted. They immediately wielded the weapons in their hands, and the origin energy around their bodies surged as they slaughtered their way out. Now that more than half of the iron-eating beasts were dead or injured, facing Tung Feng and He Ling, two level 8 martial master experts, they naturally retreated and did not dare to fight head-on. Soon, Tung Feng and He Ling both killed their way out of the encirclement. As for the rest of the people, they were in a tragic situation. Other than Shen Linhe, who was the strongest, most of them had fallen in the previous fierce battle and became food for the iron-eating beasts. Just as the iron-eating beasts were retreating, a sharp cry suddenly came from not far away. In the next moment, the earth trembled and rumbled. Then, a huge black beast shadow appeared out of thin air and rushed over at the same time. It attracted everyone's attention with different expressions. That's... Healing's lips parted slightly as her beautiful eyes widened. It was as if she had seen something unbelievable. The black beast silhouette was incomparably large, even several times larger than those large iron-eating beasts. It was as tall as a 3-story building, and its entire body was covered in heavy black armor. Although its head was still sharp and short, its pair of beast eyes were incomparably blood-red, revealing a murderous intent and flashing with madness and violence. Iron-eating Beast King, not only He Ling, but Tung Feng, who had already retreated not far away, and Shen Linhe, who was engaged in a bitter battle, were also shocked. Although this black beast was also an iron-eating beast, its size and mana aura far exceeded that of ordinary iron-eating beasts. It was the leader of the iron-eating beasts, the Iron-eating Beast King. An Iron-eating Beast King's magic power was at least at the high spirit rank. It was comparable to a 10th level martial master. In addition, the defensive power of the layer of black armor on the Iron-eating Beast King's body was also very shocking. Even a tier 5 spiritual treasure could not break through it. Even an LV-10 martial master would not dare to fight it head-on. Run! Without the slightest hesitation, the moment the Iron-eating Beast King appeared, Tung Feng and He Ling looked at each other, then turned and ran towards the other side of the hill, wanting to quickly escape from this place. At this moment, seeing Tung Feng and He Ling turn and run, Shen Linhe's face darkened and he cursed, "Bastards! You two actually dare to betray me?" Previously, he had blocked most of the iron-eating beast attacks by himself, which could not be ignored. However, facing the iron-eating Beast King's attack, Tung Feng and the others chose to turn and run. Naturally, he was furious, feeling betrayed. Letting out another sharp roar, the iron-eating Beast King launched a ferocious attack at Shen Linhe, opening its sharp, bloody mouth to bite at his opponent's vital points. Clang! Origin energy condensed into a flying knife. Shen Linhe immediately swung his hand and threw the flying knife. At the same time, he borrowed the momentum of the impact to retreat to the back. Damn it, I didn't expect that there would be an iron-eating Beast King here. However, facing the iron-eating Beast King's frequent attacks, Shen Linhe gradually became powerless. Not only did his origin energy attacks weaken, but some light injuries also appeared on his body. After all, in order to deal with the group of iron-eating beasts earlier, he had already exhausted a lot of origin energy, and there wasn't much origin energy left in his body. Moreover, the iron-eating Beast King before them had its eyes on Shen Linhe, and it didn't make a move to stop Tung Feng and the others from escaping. After all, not only was Shen Linhe the strongest amongst them, the number of iron-eating beasts that died at his hands was also the highest. This action of his had completely infuriated the iron-eating Beast King before them. Although the iron-eating Beast King's intelligence wasn't very high, it was comparable to a 7 or 8-year-old human child. It knew what the enemy was and who was the greatest threat. Tung Feng, He Ling, wait until I successfully escape. I'll definitely kill you two fence-sitters. His figure teleported into the air, once again dodging the iron-eating Beast King's bite, and a trace of hatred appeared on Shen Linhe's face. Suddenly, the iron-eating Beast King roared towards the sky, letting out a strange hissing sound like a venomous snake. In the next moment, the iron-eating Beast King charged towards Shun Linha. Its thick black armor was intimidating, and, at the same time, it emitted a powerful demonic aura, as if it was a black tornado that could destroy everything. Although it was just a simple collision, its power was extremely shocking. It was enough to kill any opponent below the 9th level of the Martial Master Realm. Just as Shun Linha and the Iron-Eating Beast King were fighting fiercely on the other side. High-level spirit, rank, demonic energy fluctuations. Looks like there's a big guy not far ahead. His figure broke through the air and arrived in front of a hillside. Fei Rin's face was slightly surprised. Along the way, he had followed the traces of blood and the condensed origin energy aura in the air to find this place. At this time, Tung Feng and He Ling also arrived in a sorry state. Their bodies were covered in wounds, and their injuries weren't light. "Kid, who are you?" Seeing Fei Rin appear not far away, Tung Feng was also surprised, and in the next moment, he tried to probe. After all, it wasn't easy for the two of them to escape the iron-eating Beast King's pursuit. They were both injured, and their strength hadn't recovered to its peak. If they encountered other strong enemies, it would be difficult for them to fight. 4th level of the Martial Master Realm? Sensing that the origin energy fluctuations on Fei Rin's body were extremely weak, and that he was only at the 4th level of the Martial Master Realm, He Ling's pretty face was also slightly stunned. Then, she secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The other party was only at the 4th level of the Martial Master Realm. Even if he didn't come with good intentions, he wouldn't be a threat to them. "Are you guys being chased by demonic beasts?" Ignoring Tung Feng's probing, Fei Rin asked calmly. Tung Feng and He Ling, who were not far away, were both injured. Furthermore, the origin energy aura on their bodies was fluctuating unstably. It was obvious that they had experienced an intense battle. This couldn't escape his eyes. "Kid, no matter who you are, I advise you to leave quickly. Otherwise, your life will be in danger. Earlier, we were chased by a high-level spirit rank iron-eating Beast King. This beast is not an existence that you can contend against with at this time." Perhaps because she saw that Fei Rin's appearance was not bad, He Ling from the Flower Celestial sect also replied with a solemn tone. "High-level spirit rank demonic beast, iron-eating Beast King. Looks like my luck is pretty good." Faced with He Ling's reminder, Fei Rin rubbed his chin and thought to himself. Right now, he was already at the critical juncture of breaking through. If he absorbed another high-level spirit rank, iron-eating Beast King's demon core, he would have a high chance of breaking through the shackles of the realm and officially stepping into the 5th level of the Martial Master Realm. Chapter 434. Although it was difficult for Tung Feng and He Ling to fight against a high spirit rank, iron-eating Beast King, however, Fei Rin could. Along with the Dharma transformation technique reaching perfection, he had condensed the complete postnatal tyrant body, the Dharma Golden Buddha body. Now, his strength was enough to kill a level 10 martial master expert. Fei Rin naturally did not care about a high spirit rank, iron-eating Beast King. As long as the martial spirit realm experts and earth rank magical beasts did not appear, no one could do anything to him. "Thank you for the information." Thinking of this, Fei Rin immediately cupped his hands towards the two people opposite him. "Kid, are you crazy? You actually want to find trouble with an iron-eating Beast King?" Seeing that Fei Rin was interested in the iron-eating Beast King, He Ling was also surprised. In her opinion, even Shun Linha, who was at the level 9 Martial Master Realm, might not be a match for the iron-eating Beast King, not to mention Fei Rin, who was only at the level 4 Martial Master Realm. The difference in strength was too great, and the other party's actions were tantamount to courting death. However, to He Ling's surprise, Fei Rin only nodded, as if he did not take a reminder to heart. "He Ling, there's no need to waste words with this guy. Since he wants to die, then we don't have to stop him." At the side, Tung Feng also snorted coldly and mocked. Fei Rin was only at the level 4 Martial Master Realm. With such a weak strength, killing an iron-eating Beast King was tantamount to throwing an egg at a rock. In the face of Tung Feng's sarcasm, Fei Ren ignored it. He only coldly glanced at Tung Feng before leaping away. This kid, his words paused, and in the next moment, a look of astonishment appeared on Tung Feng's face. Just a moment ago, he had actually seen an incomparably powerful, baleful aura from the other party's eyes. This feeling was as if he was being stared at by a ferocious and brutal magical beast, causing a chill to run down his spine and his scalp to go numb. To be able to form such a powerful, baleful aura, it was enough to see that Fei Ren's hands were stained with countless lives, stepping into a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. What a strange person. At this moment, He Ling could not help but turn around to look at Fei Ren, who was gradually disappearing into the distance. She then shook her head. Because Shun Linhe had attracted the attention of most of the iron-eating beasts, the two of them had escaped the pursuit of the iron-eating Beast King with great difficulty. Naturally, it was impossible for them to run back to their deaths now. Tung Feng frowned slightly as he glanced at He Ling. The astonishment in his heart gradually faded as he coldly said, "He Ling, this brat is a rash youth who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He will be buried with Shun Linhe sooner or later. We don't need to bother with him. Let's go." Tung Feng leaped and left. In the next moment, He Ling also pursed her lips. It was unknown what she said, but she also left the mountain slope. After all, she came from the Huainan region's Huaxian sect, a grade 7 sect. She was on good terms with Tung Feng, the Tung family's young patriarch. As for Fei Ren, she had never met him before. He Ling had already done her duty by reminding the other party. She had no reason to go back with Fei Ren to die against that high-level spirit-ranked iron-eating Beast King. It really is a high-level spirit-ranked iron-eating Beast King. Following the powerful aura of devil power in the air, Fei Ren soon arrived at the scene of the fierce battle. Boom! In front of the open space, the battle between Shun Linhe and the iron-eating Beast King was still ongoing. The air was filled with a burnt brown color, and the aura of origin energy and devil power scattered in all directions. It was a mess. Whoosh! Lightly stepping on the ground, Shun Linhe once again dodged the iron-eating Beast King's full-force charge. In the next moment, his body also landed to the side. However, his face became paler and paler, and at the same time, a trace of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. He was already close to his limit. At this point in the battle, the origin energy in his dantian was less than a quarter, and the injuries on his body were becoming more and more tragic. One could clearly see that Shun Linhe's left arm and shoulder were covered in blood, and the flesh and blood were clearly visible. These were all caused by the iron-eating Beast King's bites. If he did not use his origin energy to slightly stop the bleeding, he would not even have the strength to support his body. Swish! The iron-eating Beast King spat out a circle of rough air, as if it had discovered that an outsider had intruded. It suddenly turned its head and looked at Fei Ren, who was not far away. Someone else is here. At this time, Shun Linhe also discovered Fei Ren, who had suddenly appeared not far away, and revealed a look of astonishment. Only at the 4th level of the Martial Master realm? His gaze focused as he sensed that the origin energy fluctuations on Fei Ren's body were only at the 4th level of the Martial Master realm. In the next moment, Shun Linhe's handsome face could not help but reveal a trace of disappointment. Originally, he thought that reinforcements had arrived and could reverse the situation. The two of them could kill the iron-eating Beast King together. However, the cultivation of the Fei Ren who had rushed over was simply too weak. It was even far inferior to Tung Feng and the others who had escaped earlier. It was completely useless. Although Fei Ren's cultivation was extremely weak, at least he had a helper. Shun Linhe immediately thought of a plan and shouted to Fei Ren, who was not far away. "Sir, this iron-eating Beast King is a high-spirit rank magical beast. Its magic power is extremely powerful. We can work together to kill this beast." Work together? Glancing at Shun Linhe, Fei Ren narrowed his eyes. Yes, As long as we work together to kill this beast, you can take the magic core in its body yourself. Seeing that Fei Run had a trace of interest, Shenlinha seemed to have grabbed onto his last life-saving straw and nodded his head repeatedly. In Shenlinha's opinion, as long as Fei Run could attract the iron-eating Beast King's attention and stall it for a while, he would be able to find an opportunity to escape and escape. As for working together to kill the iron-eating Beast King, that was just a joke. Not to mention the powerful magic power of this iron-eating Beast King. Even an ordinary 10th level Martial Master expert would be unable to break through the thick layer of black armor on its body. Even a tier 5 spirit treasure would be useless. Not to mention that Fei Ren's cultivation was only at the 4th level Martial Master. There's no need to work together. I can deal with it alone. To Shenlinha's surprise, Fei Ren only chuckled at his suggestion. Then, he leaped toward the iron-eating Beast King not far away. What? Is this kid crazy? Seeing Fei Ren charging toward the iron-eating Beast King alone, Shenlinha's expression changed drastically. He knew best how powerful the iron-eating Beast King was. As a 9th level Martial Master expert and the proud son of the 7th level Shen family, even if he wasn't injured and was in peak condition, Shenlinha wouldn't dare to say that he was a match for the iron-eating Beast King. It would be good if he could keep his life. However, Fei Ren, who was only at the 4th level Martial Master realm, wanted to kill the iron-eating Beast King by himself. In his opinion, this was simply crazy. Boom! The elemental energy around Fei Ren's body surged. Fei Ren raised his hand and blasted out a golden stream of elemental energy. The golden stream of elemental energy swept out and viciously whipped the iron-eating Beast King's body. The elemental energy exploded, and the iron-eating Beast King was forced back several steps. Although it was forced back by Fei Ren's attack, the iron-eating Beast King didn't suffer any injuries. The black armor on its body was still thick and solid like a boulder. Its skin is so hard. It seems that this beast's stomach has indeed swallowed a lot of Big Dipper rock. Seeing that the iron-eating Beast King was unharmed and that even the black armor on its body wasn't broken, Fei Ren only raised his eyebrows slightly. He wasn't too surprised and instead revealed a trace of joy. The iron-eating beast liked to devour all kinds of crystal ores. Because it had a trace of the bloodline of the ancient crystal-devouring beast, it could devour all kinds of crystal ores to strengthen its black armor and increase its defense. As for the Big Dipper rock, it was a very rare mineral. Its value was no less than a 5th level spirit treasure. Chapter 435. This kid actually forced back the iron-eating Beast King's attack. How is this possible? On the other side, Shenlinha's face was filled with shock and disbelief. After all, his opponent was only at the 4th level of the Martial Master realm, a full 5 small realms lower than him. However, Fei Ren had forced the iron-eating Beast King back with a single palm. Such strength was no less than some 10th level Martial Master realm experts. This kid was also a martial arts genius. Shenlinha's mind trembled as his face was filled with mixed feelings. Not only did the other party look younger than him, but his talent and strength were also greater. As a genius of the Shun family, Shenlinha also had his own pride. Now that he was defeated by Fei Ren, a 4th level Martial Master realm martial artist, his expression did not look too good. Boom! Another punch was thrown out. Fei Ren's strength was more than twice as strong as Shenlinha's. Very quickly, he forced the iron-eating Beast King to retreat. At the same time, it let out a few painful cries. The originally indestructible black armor on the beast's body was also left with a few cracks. Although the iron-eating Beast King's magic power was not ordinary, after devouring the rare crystal ore, the black armor on its body had become as hard as a boulder. However, the previous attack was only Fei Ren's probing move, but now he was truly going all out. Not only did he use all of his golden essence energy, he also used a portion of the power of the Dharma Golden Buddha body. The power of a single punch was enough to destroy any opponent below the 9th level Martial Master realm. On the other side, because Fei Run had attracted the Iron-Eating Beast King's attention and anger, Shunlinha had also obtained a chance to catch his breath. Should I escape? At this moment, Shunlinha was somewhat hesitant. Right now, he was confident that he could escape. However, after witnessing Fei Ren's strength, he had another idea. He wanted to see how strong Fei Run, who had suddenly appeared in front of him, was. Hiss! While Shunlinha was hesitating, the Iron-Eating Beast King not far away roared again as if it had been forced into a desperate situation. The next moment, it mustered all its magic power and flew toward Fei Run at the same time. The Iron-Eating Beast King's aura was unusually ferocious. Its entire body exuded a majestic aura of mana, as if it wanted to use that thick layer of black armor to send Fei Ren flying. Rumble. The Iron-Eating Beast King not only had incredible defense, but its speed was also top-notch. It was like a moving fortress as it charged towards Fei Run, making it difficult for him to dodge. A corner dog will do something desperate. Seeing the Iron-Eating Beast King attacking with all its might, Fei Ren's face also turned cold. The next moment, golden light appeared around his body. Countless golden lights spread out and enveloped his entire body at the same time. Fei Ren's body also grew several feet taller at this moment. A red dot appeared between his eyebrows, and a lifelike golden Buddha shadow appeared behind him. It emitted a terrifying aura that made one's heart palpitate, as if the Bodhidharma Golden Buddha had descended to the world. In just an instant, Fei Ren's aura had increased by more than 10 times. It was comparable to a half-step martial spirit realm expert. What kind of cultivation method is this? Sensing the terrifying aura that had increased by more than 10 times from Fei Ren's body, Shunlinha was also dumbfounded. His eyes were filled with horror, as if he had seen a ghost. Before meeting this monster, Fei Run, he had never seen any cultivation method that could allow a mere 4th-level martial master to have a terrifying aura comparable to a half-step martial spirit realm expert. Bodhidharma Fist. The Bodhidharma Golden Buddha body was at full power. Fei Run also punched out with his fist. The origin energy in his dantian was released without reservation. A faint reddish-gold fist light cut through the air and heavily bombarded the Iron-Eating Beast King's hard black armor. Clang! Kacha! In just a breath, the reddish-gold fist light shattered the Iron-Eating Beast King's black armor. Instantly, blood splattered everywhere and countless pieces of armor scattered on the ground. After taking Fei Ren's punch head-on, the Iron-Eating Beast King let out an incomparably sharp scream, as if it was a poisonous snake that had been hit. Its beast body immediately staggered and fell to the ground. The demonic aura on its body also suddenly stopped, and its aura became weak. It was just a simple punch, but this high-level spirit rank Iron-Eating Beast King was actually severely injured by Fei Run and completely lost its fighting strength. Ever since the Bodhidharma 1000 transformation technique broke through to the perfection stage, Fei Ren's self-created martial art, Bodhidharma Fist, had also broken through and stepped into the perfection stage. Its power was comparable to a true 7th-grade martial art. And with the amplification of the Bodhidharma Golden Buddha body, not to mention a high-level spirit rank Iron-Eating Beast King, even a peak spirit rank magical beast would not be able to withstand its power. Perhaps only an Earth-stage magical beast that was comparable to a human martial spirit realm expert would be able to block Fei Ren's all-out punch. What terrifying strength! This person must be from some powerful sect or family in the Eastern continent. Secretly swallowing his saliva, Shunlinha's eyes were filled with bewilderment. After witnessing Fei Ren's terrifying strength, he was even more certain that the other party's background was powerful. It was very likely that it was an existence that he could not touch. Poochie. After heavily injuring the Iron-Eating Beast King with a single punch, Fei Ren did not hesitate in the next moment. Using the Azure Dragon Halberd with his left hand, he chopped off the iron-eating Beast King's head. Compared to the other parts of its body, the iron-eating Beast King's head was even weaker. Moreover, the most valuable magical core in the iron-eating Beast King's body would usually be born in the head. A high-level spirit rank magical core, not bad. Putting away the Azure Dragon Halberd, Fei Rin's left hand surged with a ball of spiritual fire and covered his palm. At the same time, he opened a bloody hole in the iron-eating Beast King's head and then took out a medium-sized black crystal. The black crystal was bright and translucent. It was the iron-eating Beast King's magical core. This beast's stomach should still have undigested Big Dipper rock. After putting the magical core into the spirit ring, Fei Rin did not give up on plundering the iron-eating Beast King's corpse. Once again, his left palm gently stretched out. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Rolling golden magical force burst out like a sharp blade. Shun Jiang cut open the iron-eating Beast King's stomach, revealing the scene inside. The iron-eating Beast King's stomach was very complicated. Other than blood and internal organs, there was also a part of a purple-red sticky substance that had not been digested. It seemed to be some food residue, and beside the purple-red sticky substance, there was a flash of silver light that was especially dazzling. There really is a Big Dipper rock. Seeing this scene, Fei Rin's eyes also lit up. As expected, this iron-eating Beast King had indeed swallowed a lot of rare Big Dipper rock. Moreover, there was still a part of the Big Dipper rock in its body that had not been completely digested. Taking out a large piece of silver-white crystal or from the iron-eating Beast King's stomach, Fei Rin's face was slightly happy. The large piece of silver-white crystal or in his hand was the rare Big Dipper rock. Not only was this crystal or rare, it was also a good material for forging high-level spirit treasures and weapons. I, Shun, am unable to repay your kindness in saving my life. Not far away, Shun Linha had also recovered from the death of the iron-eating Beast King. He immediately leaped in front of Fei Rin and cupped his hands. Turning around to look at Shun Linha, Fei Rin was stunned for a moment. He said with some surprise, you haven't left yet? Previously, his mind was only focused on hunting the iron-eating Beast King, and he had forgotten that there was still a genius of the Shun family, Shun Linha. Although the other party was far inferior to him, he still had the cultivation of a 9th-level martial master, which was not bad. Chapter 436. Cough cough. I'm Shun Linha, from the Shun family, 7th-rank family in the Eastern Sun region. This beast's demonic power is too strong. If it weren't for you saving me, I probably wouldn't have survived after a few dry coughs. Shun Linha smiled awkwardly in the face of Fei Rin's question. At the beginning, he had some doubts about Fei Rin. However, after witnessing the other party's terrifying strength, Shun Linha immediately understood the gap between him and Fei Rin and immediately lowered his attitude. After all, with the other party's strength, he was worthy of his respect and roping him in. Shun family in the Eastern Sun region? Hearing this, Fei Rin rubbed his nose. The Scorching Sun sect behind him was also located in the Eastern Sun region and was the only overlord in the Eastern Sun region. However, he had never heard of the Shun family. I'm sorry, I only know the Scorching Sun sect in the Eastern Sun region. With a faint smile, Fei Rin said again, that's normal. The Scorching Sun sect is the overlord of the Eastern Sun region. It can be said that everyone knows. May I know your name? This Shun will definitely thank you for saving my life this time. As his voice fell, Shun Linha's handsome face was also a little embarrassed. He then cupped his hands again. Although the Shun family was a 7th-rank family in the Eastern Sun region and had a little reputation, it was not at the level where everyone knew about it. Moreover, compared to the Raging Inferno sect, the overlord of the Eastern Sun region, it was nothing. They cannot be compared at all. My name is Fei Rin. It's just a small matter. There's no need for that. In the face of Shun Linha's flattery, Fei Rin only nodded and did not mind. Now that he had obtained the Demon Core and the Big Dipper Rock, he had made a fortune. As for Shun Linha's thanks, he did not take it to heart. The other party was only from a 7th-rank family, and his strength was SOSO. Feyren knew what kind of reward he could give. So it's Brother Fey. A look of sudden realization appeared on Shunlina's face, and then he chuckled again. Although I was in danger this time, I did obtain a lot of opportunities in the ancestral mausoleum, including a few newborn iron-eating beast cubs. As he spoke, Shunlinha extended his hand and swiped the spirit ring on his thumb. In the next moment, a white light flickered, and he took out a small and weak gray thing whose fur had not even fully grown. It was the cub of the iron-eating beast. Hiss! Hiss! This iron-eating beast cub seemed to be still young and had yet to adapt to walking. At this moment, it was flipping its body in Shunlinha's palm and letting out weak screams. Iron-eating beast cub? Looking at the iron-eating beast cub that was fluttering and crawling on Shunlinha's palm, Feyren's eyes narrowed in surprise. Iron-eating beasts had a keen sense of smell when it came to crystal ores. Their young could not only be raised as magical pets, but they could also be used to explore crystal ores and elemental ore veins. Their value in the black market had always been quite high. With regard to the value of an iron-eating beast cub, Feyren was naturally clear in his heart. Moreover, compared to an adult iron-eating beast, an iron-eating beast cub was not only easier to tame, but it was also less dangerous. Generally, it would not attack its master. For the vast majority of martial artists, raising a magical pet to help them, they had always started training it from a cub. That's right, we spent a lot of effort to get these iron-eating beast cubs. However, only this one is broken out of its shell. The other iron-eating beast cubs have yet to hatch and are still in the state of eggs. After putting the iron-eating beast cub back into the spirit ring, Shunlinha took out a few huge eggs. It was clear that the harvest from this time's raid of the iron-eating beast's nest was far more than this. These huge eggs were slightly grayish-brown in color and were the size of a wash basin. They were the eggs of the iron-eating beast. As a magical beast that laid eggs, the method of reproduction of the iron-eating beast was very common, and that was to hatch eggs. An adult female iron-eating beast would at most lay a single egg every time she gave birth. It was very rare. But right now, Shunlinha had a total of 3 iron-eating beast eggs in his hands. In addition to the iron-eating beast cub that had already hatched successfully, there were 4 iron-eating beast cubs. Kid, you're really ruthless. You actually raided the nest of that group of iron-eating beasts. No wonder these beasts are determined to tear you apart. Grinning, Feyren's expression was somewhat playful. Now, he finally understood why Shunlinha's group would be crazily chased by a group of iron-eating beasts and even attracted a high-level spirit rank iron-eating beast king. Now it seemed that the other party had poked a hornet's nest. After all, the fertility of the iron-eating beast was very low among the magical beasts. It could only hatch 1 egg at a time. Now that Shunlinha and the others raided the nest of this group of iron-eating beasts and stole a few eggs and newborn cubs, it was natural that they would be furious. Now that Lai Long, who knew about this matter, went to buy it, all of this was not strange. Brother Fey, you're joking. I was just lucky. For these eggs and iron-eating beast cubs, our team suffered heavy casualties. Now, I'm the only one left. Facing Feyren's teasing, Shunlinha's expression was somewhat unnatural as he laughed dryly. Team, Feyren pondered for a moment before speaking again. When I came over earlier, I met a few young martial artists. Could those people be with you? When he rushed over earlier, he had met the injured Tung Feng and He Ling. If he was not mistaken, they should be in the same team as Shunlinha. Tung Feng, He Ling. It must be these 2 fence-sitters. I will definitely not let them off. Hearing this, Shunlinha was also stunned. Then, he clenched his fists and said angrily, originally, in order to escape the pursuit of the iron-eating beasts, he had killed most of the iron-eating beasts by himself. It could be said that he had slightly resolved the danger of the team. However, when the iron-eating beast king appeared, Tung Feng and He Ling chose to escape. Thinking of this, Shunlinha's stomach was filled with anger and anger. That's right. I had teamed up with the two of them to explore the treasures of the ancestral mausoleum. At the beginning, we had also agreed that we would split the young, iron-eating beast equally. Tung Feng is from the Tung family of the Huainan region. As for that little bitch He Ling, she is from the rank 7 sect, the flower deity sect. She seems to be the direct disciple of some flower fairy. That flower fairy is also the current sect master of the flower deity sect. Her strength is already above the martial spirit realm. However, other than those two bastards, the other members of the team are all dead. Originally, if the two of them had stayed to help me, perhaps the iron-eating Beast King wouldn't have been able to do anything. Even if we couldn't kill it in the end, we would have been able to escape unscathed. Shun Linhe gritted his teeth and said with some resentment. Tung Feng and He Ling both came from the Huainan region. The former was the young master of the rank 7 Tung family, while the latter was the proud daughter of the flower deity sect. When everyone teamed up at the beginning, although Shun Linhe was appointed as the leader, when it came to a critical moment, he couldn't command anyone. Under the threat of the iron-eating Beast King's life, the two young geniuses, Tung Feng and He Ling, naturally wouldn't follow him. I see. Hearing this, Farron also reached out to touch his nose, and a trace of a dry smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Shun Linhe had clearly been betrayed by his teammates. If he hadn't killed the iron-eating Beast King, he would have most likely died. Chapter 437. Lightly exhaling, the anger on Shun Linhe's face faded slightly. Then he said again, Brother Fei, there's no need to say anything more about these two fence-sitters. I have no way to repay the favor of saving my life this time. Here's an iron-eating beast egg. Please take it. As he spoke, Shun Linhe took out a grayish-brown egg from his spirit ring and handed it to Fei Run. This time, he had also plundered a lot of good things from the iron-eating beast lair, including 4 iron-eating beast eggs. Whether these iron-eating beast eggs were sold or hatched, they would be of great value in the future. Moreover, Shun Linhe had a total of 4 iron-eating beast eggs in his hands. Even if he gave one to Fei Run, he wouldn't feel bad. Then I won't be polite. Fei Ren was naturally very clear about the value of an iron-eating beast egg and immediately put it in his bag. Right now, not only did he obtain a high-level spirit rang monster core and a large piece of rare heavenly dipper rock, he also picked up an iron-eating beast egg from Shun Linhe's hands for free. This time, he didn't lose out. Brother Fei, what do you plan to do next? Shun Linhe nodded and asked again. There are still many opportunities in this ancestral tomb. Rumor has it that there are even inheritances related to the Martial King realm, so I don't want to miss it. Facing Shun Linhe's probing, Fei Ren said unhurriedly. He had also guessed a little of the other party's thoughts. With the strength he had revealed earlier, Shun Linhe wanted to hug his thigh and join forces to explore the ancestral tomb. Brother Fei, with our strength, as long as we join forces, we might be able to get a share of the inheritance of the Martial King realm. Clenching his fists, Shun Linhe spoke again. He was at the 9th level of the Martial Master Realm. Although Fei Ren was only at the 4th level of the Martial Master Realm, his strength was comparable to the 10th level of the Martial Master Realm. It was extremely abnormal and couldn't be compared with martial artists of the same generation. No. Shaking his head, Fei Ren declined with a smile. It was not that he was deliberately putting on airs, but there were many warriors from all sides who had entered the ancestral mausoleum. In addition to the people from the 5 major tribes, there were also some powerful rogue cultivators. With Shun Linhe's strength, it was simply not enough. He could only be used as cannon fodder. May I ask where Brother Fei is from? In the future, I will definitely pay you a visit to thank you. After his invitation was rejected, Shun Linhe's expression was a bit awkward as he asked again. Scorching Sun Sect. There's no need to thank me. This iron-eating beast egg is enough. Seeing this, Fei Ren could only nod his head and say, Scorching Sun Sect. Hearing this, Shun Linhe's face revealed a trace of shock. In fact, he had already guessed that Fei Ren's background was extraordinary. However, he did not expect the Scorching Sun Sect the overlord of the Eastern Sun region, to be behind Fei Ren. Well, if you have time in the future, you can come to the Shun family in the Eastern Sun region for a chat. I will definitely treat you well. There was a trace of pity on his face. In the next moment, Shun Linhe did not insist and cupped his hands. He came from the Shun family, a 7th-grade family in the Eastern Sun region, and the other party was a genius from the 6th-grade Scorching Sun sect. It was well known that the Scorching Sun sect was the overlord of the Eastern Sun region. If they could be on good terms with Fei Ren, it would be beneficial for the Shun family's future development in the Eastern Sun region. Okay. As soon as his voice fell, Fei Ren also nodded and then leaped away. Now that he had obtained a high-level spirit rank, iron-eating Beast King monster core, he naturally had to find a remote place to seclude himself and wait for an opportunity to break through his Yuan Qi cultivation. If his Yuan Qi cultivation broke through, Fei Ren's strength would greatly increase, and his chances of competing for the ancestral mausoleum treasure would also be greater. At the same time, on the other side of the ancestral mausoleum, in the dense forest, a fierce battle was going on. Figures flashed, and their auras were extraordinary. Boom! Powerful Yuan Qi instantly swept out, and at the same time, a man and a woman were blasted back. They landed in the open space behind the dense forest and vomited blood. With your mediocre strength, you want to fight with our bone sect. As he stepped forward, a black-robed figure appeared in front of him. The black-robed figure had a thin face, and a pair of eyes flashed with killing intent. At this moment, he was looking at the injured young man and woman opposite him, and the corner of his mouth could not help but reveal a trace of mockery. The black-robed figure was an old man, but his strength was very strong. His entire body was surrounded by a fiery red, violent current, as if he was covered in heavenly fire. At the same time, his Yuan Qi fluctuations had reached level 10 Martial Master and vaguely formed his own Qi field. Damn it! Our injuries have not healed, and we can't compete with these two bastards from the Bone Sect. The young man's face was pale, and he vomited a mouthful of blood. His eyes were full of fear as he looked at the black-robed old man opposite him. It was the young master of the Tung family, Tung Feng, who had met Fei Ren before. Beside Tung Feng was the genius disciple of the Huaxian sect, Heling. However, compared to Tung Feng, Healing's current situation was even worse. Her pretty face was covered in sweat, and her plain dress was torn, revealing a pair of flawless white legs. At the same time, her aura was low, and she seemed to have suffered some serious injuries. Tung Feng, what should we do? Looking at Tung Feng, Healing's tone could not help but be a little flustered. She had less than 10% of her Yuan Qi left, and she might not even be able to escape, let alone compete with the black-robed old man in front of her. The black-robed old man opposite them was called Wang Jie, and he was an elder of the Bone Sect. As for the Bone Sect, it was one of the most notorious Grade 7 forces in the Great Ming Dynasty. The martial artists in the sect had done many things like burning, killing, and robbing. It was a completely evil force, and it had been jointly attacked by some righteous forces in the past. However, because the Bone Sect's whereabouts were secretive and they did not have a fixed sect base, they had always been like a centipede that did not fall over, and they had not been completely eliminated. Old Wang, you have wasted too much time. As he spoke, another gray figure flashed through the air, and in the next moment, he arrived beside the black-robed old man called Wang Jie, and said in a playful tone. The Dark Corpse Taoist was also an elder of the Bone Sect, and his strength was not weaker than Wang Jie's. He had also reached level 10 Martial Master. These two fellows are considered young geniuses, and their strength is not too weak. Otherwise, I would not have wasted so much time. Wang Jie said coldly as he turned around to glance at Daoist's dark corpse beside him. His tone was indifferent. It was as if in his eyes, Tung Feng and He Ling were already people who were about to die and would not be able to escape from his grasp. Are we going to die here, just like that? Looking at Wang Jie and the Dark Corpse Taoist, who were not far away, despair surged in He Ling's heart. Previously, the two of them had managed to escape the pursuit of an iron-eating Beast King with great difficulty, but they never expected to meet two elders of the Bone Sect here. Wang Jie and the Dark Corpse Taoist, the two elders of the Bone Sect, were both at level 10 martial master and were very powerful. Moreover, after the previous battle, He Ling and Tong Feng's Yuan Qi and injuries had not recovered, and they were not a match for the two elders. Now that they had held on for so long, they were already at their limit. Die? No, I don't want to die yet. Gritting his teeth, Tong Feng subconsciously glanced at He Ling, and a crazed look appeared on his face. Chapter 438. He Ling, I'll have to trouble you. Tong Feng's eyes hardened. In the next moment, he raised his hand and attacked He Ling. At the same time, he stomped his foot and fell into the dense forest behind him. You! In an instant, He Ling was caught off guard by Tong Feng's sudden attack. Her pretty face changed slightly. Her left shoulder took a heavy blow. In the next moment, He Ling's pretty face turned red. She spat out a mouthful of blood and was pushed back by the force of the palm. She fell toward Wang Jie and Taoist Corpse, who were not far away. Boom! Her delicate body fell heavily to the ground. In the next moment, He Ling's aura dropped to the extreme. Her face was extremely pale. Her injuries were already not light. Now that she was hit by Tong Feng's palm, her injuries worsened. She had basically lost her ability to fight. Tong Feng, I won't let you go even if I die. At this moment, He Ling naturally understood her opponent's intention. He was obviously planning to sacrifice her as a cover to escape. Try to run? Taoist Corpse also sensed Tong Feng's intention. He leaped into the air and attacked Tong Feng like a rock spreading its wings. At the same time, he swept up a strange demonic wind. He Ling was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. There was no way she could escape. Naturally, he would not let Tong Feng go. Swoosh! Tong Feng did not run far. In the next moment, Taoist Corpse arrived. His body surged with origin energy, and he struck out with his palm. You can't run away. A large amount of origin energy swept out and turned into a huge black wave. The black wave roared and drowned Tong Feng's body in a breath. Boom! In just a breath's time, Tong Feng died on the spot. He did not even have the chance to scream. He was instantly killed and swallowed by the powerful origin energy and turned into a corpse. If a corpse of a level 8 martial master is refined into a corpse, its combat power will not be weak. Taoist Corpse's body slowly landed. Looking at Tong Feng's corpse under his feet, his pale face revealed a trace of a grim smile. Unlike Wang Jie, although he was also one of the elders of the Bone Sect, he did not specialize in origin energy. He specialized in refining corpses. Corpse refinement, as the name implied, was to refine corpses into inanimate objects that possess combat strength, and its nature was similar to the puppet technique. However, the difference between corpse refining and puppet refining was that the process of refining corpses was much more complicated. Furthermore, one could only use the corpses of martial artists to extract their souls while they were still alive, causing the dead to never be able to reincarnate. The method was extremely cruel. Therefore, the corpse refinement Dao was taboo and loathed by the vast majority of martial artists on the continent. They thought it was a crooked path. In front of the forest, after Tong Feng died, He Ling also failed to escape from Wang Jie's grasp. Little girl, this old man will let you experience what it means to be in heaven before you die. He sized up He Ling's exposed thighs and abdomen. In the next moment, a trace of lust appeared in Wang Jie's murky eyes. As an elder of the Bone Gate, Wang Jie had tasted at least 800 women, if not 1,000. However, this was the first time he had seen someone like He Ling. She was a genius disciple of the Celestial Flower Sect. Her cultivation was already at the 8th level of the Martial Master realm, and she was extraordinarily beautiful. A proud daughter of heaven of this level could be said to be worlds apart from those women of the outside world. What are you doing? Don't come over. Facing the gradually approaching Wang Jie, He Ling was so frightened that her beautiful face turned pale. Her delicate body trembled slightly, as if she wanted to resist with all her might. However, she could not muster a trace of origin power. After all, the origin power in her dantian had long been exhausted. Furthermore, her injuries were not light. Now, she was no different from a helpless woman of the secular world. She was simply unable to resist any of Wang Jie's actions. You still dare to resist. Seeing He Ling's desperate struggle, Wang Jie coldly snorted. Then he suddenly stretched out his left hand and instantly sealed all her acupuncture points and meridians. After her acupuncture points and meridians were sealed, not to mention using any origin power, He Ling did not even have the strength to move her fingers. She could only be reduced to a plaything at the mercy of others. However, just as Wang Jie was about to make his move, He Ling actually opened her mouth and fiercely bit his palm. Wang Jie also let out a miserable cry. His entire right palm was instantly covered in blood. Even a few pieces of flesh had been bitten off. Little bitch, you're courting death. Facing He Ling's final struggle, Wang Jie was completely enraged. Flower Celestial Sect's disciple would rather die than submit. Looking at the furious Wang Jie, He Ling, who had reached her limit, smiled miserably. Then, a trace of blood seeped out from the corner of her mouth. Her entire body fell to the ground, and her aura completely disappeared. It seemed that she had bitten her tongue to commit suicide, unwilling to suffer this humiliation. Swoosh! He raised his hand and grabbed He Ling's jade-like neck. At this moment, Wang Jie's face was ashen. In the end, he was still a step too late. He did not expect that the other party would bite her tongue to commit suicide. What bad luck! Throwing away He Ling's corpse, Wang Jie coldly snorted. The fury on his face gradually faded. At this point, he had long since lost interest in that aspect. At this moment, Taoist Dark Corpse, who had gone to chase Tung Feng, also returned with a playful expression. Old Wang, this chick is the pride of the Flower Celestial Sect. She must taste good, right? You don't need to worry about this old man's matters. But you won't let that kid escape, right? Ignoring Taoist Dark Corpse's ridicule, Wang Jie coldly snorted and asked indifferently. No one has been able to escape from me, Taoist Dark Corpse. Grinning, Taoist Dark Corpse took out a dried corpse from his spirit ring. The dried corpse was covered in layers of white cloth. Its eyes were empty and lifeless. However, one could vaguely make out the outline of its appearance. It was Tung Feng, who had escaped earlier. I didn't expect you to refine this kid into a dried corpse so quickly. Glancing at the dried corpse in Taoist Dark Corpse's hand, Wang Jie raised his eyebrows. Although Taoist Dark Corpse was also an elder of the Bone Sect, and his cultivation was similar, his strength was still above him. The reason was that Taoist Dark Corpse had mastered the method of refining corpses. Other than Tung Feng, who had been refined into a dried corpse, Taoist Dark Corpse still had several martial master corpses in his hands. These were all fighting forces that could not be underestimated. It's still SOSO. This kid is indeed a young genius. He has just been refined into a dried corpse by me, and his strength is not lower than the 6th level of the martial master realm. If he is nurtured in the future, he might be able to grow to another level. In the face of Wang Jie's inquiry, the corners of Taoist Dark Corpse's mouth rose, revealing a trace of pride. As one of the elders of the Bone Sect, he was most proud of the corpse refining technique. Even in the entire Bone Sect, there were very few martial artists who knew the corpse refining technique. This was also the reason why he called himself Taoist Dark Corpse. I hope so. There are more and more martial artists entering the ancestral mausoleum. Other than the barbarians of the 5 major tribes, there are also many rogue martial artists. It's time for us to change to another place to kill our prey. Wang Jie changed the topic and spoke again with a trace of killing intent in his eyes. Entering the ancestral mausoleum this time, his and Taoist Dark Corpse's goal was very simple. That was to kill and rob. Every martial artist who entered the ancestral mausoleum was prey in their eyes. As for plundering treasures, that was secondary. Tung Feng and He Ling, who had died tragically earlier, were just one of the souls that had died under their hands. Since the ancestral mausoleum opened a few days ago, no less than a few dozen rogue martial artists had died at the hands of Wang Jie and Daoist Dark Corps, including some experts from the 5 major tribes. Chapter 439. It's time to change locations. Shooting a glance at Wang Jie, the Dark Corpse Taoist recalled the dried corpse in front of him and said, "Old Wang, other than this brat called Tongue Feng, most of the warriors that died at my hands were weak. Not a single one of them was above the 7th level of the martial master realm. With such weak cultivation, even if I refined them into mummies, it would be a waste of my energy and time. Unlike Wang Jie, at least half of the Dark Corpse Taoist strength came from dead objects. If he lost his powerful mummies, his strength would be greatly reduced. Although he only killed small fish and shrimps in the past few days, the kid who died in your hands had a good aptitude. It's enough to cultivate him into a powerful corpse." As his voice fell, Wang Jie curled his lips and a cold smile appeared on his old face. Clearly, human lives were worthless in his eyes. Corpses were also a type of mummy. However, unlike ordinary mummies, corpses were more powerful. Moreover, the refining process was very complicated and required a certain amount of time. Even the Dark Corpse Taoist, an elder of the Bone sect, only had 1 corpse in his hands. The rest were ordinary mummies, including the dead Tongue Feng. That's true. However, my corpse refining technique can only take yang and not yin. Otherwise, I could have refined this girl's corpse a little. What a pity. Nodding, the Dark Corpse Taoist looked at He Ling's corpse and said with a trace of pity. Although he was well-versed in corpse refining, his corpse refining technique was not a complete technique and still had some flaws. The biggest flaw was that he could only refine male creatures into mummies and could not refine female creatures. Therefore, he could only give up on the idea of refining He Ling's corpse into a mummy. "Let's go." Glancing at He Ling's stiff corpse on the ground, Wang Jie seemed to recall that she had killed herself by biting her tongue and causing his evil thoughts to fail. An unnatural expression appeared on his old face as he leaped and left. "Ah, ancestral mausoleum. I really like this place more and more." Looking at Wang Jie's figure hiding in the dense forest, the Dark Corpse Taoist's pale face revealed a trace of bloody cruelty as he sneered. Originally, the quality of the mummies in his hands were not good, and their strength was mediocre. There was only 1 level 9 martial master corpse, and the rest were all mummies below level 6 martial master. However, after these few days of hunting, the dried corpses in Daoist Dark Corpse's hands had also been replaced. It could be said that he had become rich overnight. Most of the dried corpses in his hands have been replaced with corpses above LV 6 martial master realm. There were about 5 or 6 of them. As for the powerful corpses, he had 2 of them, including Tongue Feng, who had the aptitude of corpse but had yet to become a true corpse. As long as he spent a bit of effort and time, Tongue Feng's corpse in Daoist Dark Corpse's hands will be able to break away from the category of dried corpses and evolve into a powerful corpse. As for the remaining weak mummified corpses, they were all abandoned by Daoist Dark Corpse. After all, these mummified corpses were too weak. If they encountered some powerful opponents, it would be easy for them to be defeated. Shua! His figure flashed, and in the next moment, Daoist Dark Corpse also disappeared from the dense forest. It was as if he had evaporated into thin air and never appeared. While Elder Wang Jie of the Bone Sect and Daoist Dark Corpse were hunting, wantonly slaughtering the martial artists and rogue cultivators who had entered the ancestral tomb, Fei Run was in a tense closed-door cultivation. In a remote cave, the surroundings were heavy with humidity, and flames could be vaguely seen in the cave. Fei Run was dressed in a gray robe and was currently sitting cross-legged with a determined expression on his face. He was obviously cultivating with a cultivation technique, and around his body, surging yuan energy flames were rising, evaporating the moist water droplets in the cave at the same time. I'm still missing a 1/5 of my yuan energy. A high spirit rank iron-eating Beast King monster core should be enough. After circulating the Dharma 1000 transformation technique for another large cycle, Rin gently exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, his face filled with reverie. Before devouring the monster core and breaking through the Yuan energy cultivation, he had made sufficient preparations. Not only did he maintain his condition at its peak, he also found such a remote and quiet place to avoid being disturbed by others. Previously, after killing the iron-eating Beast King, Rin had obtained a high spirit rank monster core, which could be said to be quite lucky. For ordinary martial warriors from the outside world, although the monster core contained a decent amount of magic power, it could not be directly devoured and absorbed to increase one's cultivation. This was because the human martial warriors cultivated the Tao of origin energy, while the magic power in the magical beast body formed its own branch. The two could not coexist, and forcefully absorbing them would only cause a backlash, or even a violent death. For the vast majority of martial warriors, only by refining the monster core with medicinal herbs could they directly consume it. However, Rin's Dantian had fused with the Immortal refining cauldron, so these problems were not a problem for him. Whether it was the monster core pill or the spirit treasure medicinal ingredient, he could directly devour and refine them, thus increasing his own cultivation. After a part of the inscriptions on the Immortal refining cauldron had been restored, his refining power had been greatly enhanced. Although he was still unable to devour all the creatures in the world, a mere demon core was naturally not a problem. Now, there was no need to think too much. It's up to you. Taking out the monster core of the iron-eating Beast King from the spirit ring, Rin's eyes lit up. In the next moment, he summoned the Immortal refining cauldron with a flip of his hand. At the same time, he threw the monster core of the iron-eating Beast King into the cauldron and began to absorb and refine it. Swish, swish, swish. When a monster core entered the divine cauldron, it melted in the next moment, and a large amount of magic power it contained began to gradually decompose. At the same time, it was transformed into pure energy of heaven and earth, which was absorbed by Rin's Dantian. What a huge amount of energy of heaven and earth. Rin's face was slightly happy. In just a few short breaths, he felt a huge amount of energy of heaven and earth continuously pouring into his Dantian, and then transformed into an even larger amount of origin energy. After all, the iron-eating Beast King was a high-level spirit rank magical beast. Compared to other monster cores, the monster core in its body also contained a huge amount of magic power. Even though the capacity of Rin's Dantian was several times that of his peers, he still felt a sense of overflowing. The depths of his Dantian trembled steadily, as if it was being attacked by thousands of soldiers and horses. Soon, it was on the verge of a breakthrough. An unknown amount of time passed. There's still the last step. Sensing the gradually increasing power in his body, Rin's eyes narrowed slightly, and then he roared out. Breakthrough for this young master. The aura on his body soared once again. Rin instantly increased the refining speed, and, at the same time, he activated the Dharma 1000 transformation technique. He wanted to directly break through the last barrier and break through to level 5 Martial Master in one fell swoop. Boom! Accompanied by a faint rumbling sound from within his Dantian, Rin's tiger body trembled slightly in the next moment. At the same time, a ray of light shot out from his deep eyes, and his origin energy aura more than doubled, reaching an unprecedented peak state. Level 5 Martial Master, he had finally broken through, with his origin energy cultivation successfully breaking through to level 5 Martial Master. Rin's overall strength had greatly increased. Now, he could even contend against a half-step to Martial Spirit Realm expert, and even kill him. Chapter 440. After the breakthrough, Rin also got up and left. Swoosh! However, as soon as he stepped out of the cave, an invisible murderous aura came from across the air. Not only was this murderous aura aggressive, it was also menacing. It was obviously not friendly. Trouble is coming. With a chill in his heart, Fei Ren secretly circulated the origin energy around his body. At the same time, he raised his eyes and looked in one direction. I was wondering who was cultivating in seclusion here. So it's just a little kid at the 5th level of the martial master realm. Not far away, a sneer came out. In the next moment, a black-robed old man appeared. There was a faint disdain on his old face. It was the Bone Sect's Elder Wang Jie. TSK, this kid is too weak. He's not worthy of me, refining him into a mummy. As soon as he finished speaking, the Dark Corpse Taoist also stepped into the air. His pale face was full of disapproval, as if Fei Ren was also a person who was about to die and was not worth mentioning. Originally, the two of them were planning to hunt down the warriors passing by. However, they accidentally bumped into Fei Ren, who was hiding in the cave in seclusion. Although Fei Ren had only broken through to the 5th level of the martial master realm, it was a huge commotion. It was no less than a 10th level martial master breaking through to the half-step martial spirit realm. Therefore, it was also noticed by Wang Jie and the Dark Corpse Taoist who were passing by. 2 10th level martial masters? Fei Ren's gaze focused. He sensed that the people in front of him were not weak. His face was solemn. Now that his origin energy cultivation had just broken through, he needed a battle to temper and consolidate his cultivation. The Bone Sect's Elder Wang Jie and the Dark Corpse Taoist were qualified opponents. If it was before, Fei Ren would not be a match for either Wang Jie or the Dark Corpse Taoist. However, with the success of the Dharma Golden Buddha body and his origin energy cultivation breaking through to the 5th level of the martial master realm, even a half-step martial spirit realm expert could not do anything to him, let alone a mere 10th level martial master. Who are you? Restraining his expression, Fei Ren asked. Little doll, you don't deserve to know our names. Wang Jie laughed coldly when faced with Fei Ren's probing. After that, his figure shot out explosively as he raised his hand and blasted out a pitch-black pillar of Yuan energy. Shua! A stream of origin energy streaked across the sky. Its attack was extremely impressive. In just a single exchange, it had already arrived in front of Fei Ren. Have I been underestimated? In the face of Wang Jie's sudden attack, Fei Ren sneered in his heart. Similarly, he circulated his golden essence force and blasted out a fist. Boom! Incomparably powerful golden yuan power swept out like a tornado descending from the heavens. In an instant, it swept away the oncoming yuan power. At the same time, its power did not diminish as it charged toward Wang Jie and Daoist Corpse, who were not far away. Its power was terrifying. What? Wang Jie and Daoist Dark Corpse's expressions changed slightly when they saw their attacks were easily dealt with by Fei Ren. Boom! His figure flashed to the side as Wang Jie barely avoided the attack of the Golden Fist. Daoist Corpse, who was beside him, was a little unlucky as he was sent flying by the Golden Fist. At the same time, his body flew back dozens of steps before finally slamming into a giant tree beside him. What a powerful kid! How is this possible? Glancing at Daoist Corpse, who was in a sorry state not far away, Wang Jie was bewildered. In the beginning, he thought that Fei Ren was just a junior at the 5th level of the martial master realm. His strength was not worth mentioning at all, and he could easily kill him. However, Fei Ren in front of him had slapped him hard in the face. He actually had the combat strength of a 10th level martial master realm expert, and a casual punch had broken his attack. I've met a tough opponent. This kid seems to be a genius martial artist. At this moment, Wang Jie could not help but have such a thought in his heart. It was rumored that some of the younger generations of the top sects and clans were not only powerful, but they could also easily fight above their level. They were known as genius martial artists. As an elder of the Bone Sect, Wang Jie's experience and eyesight were not low. Naturally, he had heard of these rumors. If he was not mistaken, Fei Ren in front of him was a genius martial artist, and his background was not small. That was close. I almost suffered. Such powerful strength. Where did this kid come from? At this moment, Daoist Corpse, who was not far away, slowly climbed up from the ground. His pale face was still filled with lingering fear. At the same time, the robe on his chest was torn, revealing a bruise. Although they were both at the 10th level of the martial master realm, Daoist Corpse was still weaker than Wang Jie. Therefore, he was almost severely injured by Fei Ren's punch. This guy is actually fine? Seeing that Daoist Corpse had suffered a slight injury, Fei Ren's face also revealed a trace of surprise. He had used 70% of his strength in the previous punch. Even if his opponent had the cultivation of a 10th level martial master, he still could not resist. Even if he did not die, he would be seriously injured. However, the Daoist Corpse in front of him had only suffered a slight injury, which surprised Fei Ren. He had never misjudged his own strength, so there must be something fishy about it. Gotcha! Just as Fei Ren was surprised, he saw Daoist Corpse take out a dried corpse wrapped in white cloth from his spirit ring. In the next moment, he threw it on the ground. The dried corpse was covered with spiderweb-like cracks. Then it slowly shattered into a pile of powder, as if it had suffered some kind of powerful attack. Corpse! So it's a transplant. His eyes narrowed. Facing Daoist Corpse's actions, Fei Ren also somewhat understood the ins and outs of the matter. The other party was an evil demon who specialized in corpse refining. As for why Daoist Corpse had blocked his punch, it was probably related to the dried corpse that had already turned into powder. Daoist Corpse controlled the dried corpse to block most of his attacks, as if he was controlling a scapegoat. This little bastard caused me to lose a 6th level martial master's dried corpse. Looking at Fei Ren with a resentful expression, Daoist Corpse roared at Wang Jie beside him. Old Wang, let's attack together and get rid of him. This old man also has the same intention. In the face of Daoist Corpse's proposal, Wang Jie also nodded deeply, and a murderous intent burst out from his turbid eyes. Although Fei Ren was only a 5th level martial master junior, his strength was extremely terrifying. Not only was he not weaker than any of them, but he also had a faint suppressive force. He could not be underestimated. Right now, the best solution was to join forces and kill Fei Ren. Lin Bing Doja, all array in front, Ghost Corpse technique. With a loud shout, Daoist Corpse chanted. In the next moment, a demonic wind gushed out from his body, and his origin energy raged. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In less than a breath's time, 4 strange dried corpses filled with a strong death aura appeared. Their eyes were empty and lifeless, and then they surrounded Fei Ren. 3 6th level martial masters, 1 8th level martial master. This evil demon has quite a few trump cards. Sweeping his gaze, Fei Ren narrowed his eyes at the strange dried corpses around him. Kid, you're finished. Crippling feather arrow formation. On the other side, Wang Jie also arrived in the air. Countless origin energy swept out, and then turned into a rain of arrows, directly attacking Fei Ren. Swoosh, swoosh. The arrows formed by origin energy flickered with a green light. It seemed to be a martial art. Not only was the range huge, but its power was also extraordinary. Immediately, it covered 100 feet around Fei Ren, making it difficult for him to dodge. Chapter 441. Swoosh. Just as the arrows rained down, the corpses that were eyeing them covetously also reacted. Under the control of the Dark Corpse Taoist, they flew towards Fei Ren. Woo woo woo. A dense death aura spread out, and at the same time, a gust of demonic wind whistled, like the wailing of evil spirits, causing one's heart to palpitate. You want to kill me? It's not that simple. Facing the joint attack of Wang Jie and the Dark Corpse Taoist, Fei Ren's face also turned serious. Then, a large amount of scarlet golden light gushed out from his body, and the center of his eyebrows flashed red. His aura instantly soared by several times, comparable to a true half-step to martial spirit realm expert. Dharma golden Buddha body, full power. Rumble. Under the gaze of Wang Jie and the Dark Corpse Taoist, Fei Rin's figure was swallowed by the arrow rain in the next moment, and the explosions continued. Ha ha ha, this kid is finished. A hint of joy appeared on his old face, and Wang Jie laughed out loud. This crippling feather arrow formation was his specialty. Not only was its power comparable to a quasi-grade 6 martial art, but its destructive power and range were also extremely wide, making it difficult for ordinary warriors to dodge. In Wang Jie's opinion, Fei Rin was only a level 5 martial master. No matter how strong he was, it was absolutely impossible for him to take on his crippling feather arrow formation head-on. Not to mention, he had the help of the dark corpse Taoist corpse, which was like adding wings to a tiger. This kid is too arrogant. He actually dared to use his physical strength to take on our joint attack. He is really courting death. On the side, the dark corpse Taoist also snorted coldly and said in a sinister tone, as if he also thought that Fei Rin would definitely die. Boom! However, just as Wang Jie and Daoistine corpse were feeling complacent, a deafening rumble came from the opposite side in the next moment. Then, a golden light flashed, and a lifelike golden Buddha phantom appeared out of thin air. What? A sudden change occurred. Looking at the golden Buddha phantom that appeared not far away, Wang Jie and the dark corpse Taoist expressions turned cold, and then their faces turned pale. This kid is actually not dead yet. Sensing that Fei Rin's origin energy undulations were still there, Wang Jie subconsciously cried out in a low voice. The other party was only at the 5th level of the martial master realm. It was a miracle that he was still standing after taking the joint attack of 2 10th level martial master realm experts head-on. Looks like I've disappointed you too. In the next moment, a cold laugh was slowly heard. At the same time, the dust dissipated, and Fei Rin's figure appeared once again. At this moment, not only did Fei Rin's body grow taller by several feet, but his whole body was also wrapped in a crimson golden light. His skin was also dyed crimson gold, and there was a red dot in the middle of his forehead. The golden Buddha behind him was vivid and lifelike, as if the Bodhidharma golden Buddha had appeared in the world, giving off a threatening aura. Die! Fei Rin's eyes flashed with killing intent as he disappeared from where he stood. The next moment, he appeared behind Wang Jie and punched out with all his might. After using the Dharma golden Buddha body, he did not need any spiritual treasures or martial arts. Every punch and palm of his could destroy everything and was unstoppable. Boom! The fist landed heavily on Wang Jie's old body. In the next moment, a majestic origin power erupted and instantly pierced through Wang Jie's back. Blood splattered everywhere, and even his internal organs were smashed into pieces. A mouthful of old blood spurted out, and the vitality in Wang Jie's eyes plummeted. His body fell to the ground weakly, and after a few breaths, he was completely dead. Fei Rin's punch had not only severely injured him, but had also completely shattered his heart meridians. Even a deity could not save him. A 10th level martial master realm expert killed with one punch. After using the Dharma golden Buddha body, Fei Rin's strength had not only increased by several times, but his speed was also unparalleled. The strength of the acquired mighty body is indeed powerful. Withdrawing his fist, Fei Rin's eyes flashed with a strong desire to fight. Monster! On the side, seeing Fei Rin kill Wang Jie with one punch, the dark corpse Taoist's eyes were filled with fear. His heart was filled with endless fear, and then he pointed with a trembling finger. You. Who are you? The person who will kill you. Unwilling to talk nonsense with the dark corpse Taoist, after killing Wang Jie with one punch, Fei Rin rushed toward him again. Dharma fist. A punch blasted out across the air, and countless golden origin energy swept out in all directions, instantly condensing into a roaring origin energy dragon. The fist force and the dragon intertwined, and the terrifying momentum seemed to shake the world, causing the wind and clouds to change color. Ghost Corpse technique, body protection. Facing Fei Ren's terrifying attack, the Dark Corpse Taoist was completely scared out of his wits. His originally pale face suddenly became unsightly. Then, he chanted and summoned two powerful mummies from his spiritual ring, intending to block Fei Ren's punch. These two mummies were different from the other mummies. Not only were they stronger, but their eyes were also crimson red, not empty and lifeless. One of the mummies was an old acquaintance that Fei Ren had met before, Tang Feng from the Huainan region's 7th grade Tang family. Kid. So that kid Tang Feng also died in the hands of this demon. Looking at Tang Feng, who had been refined into a mummy not far away, Fei Ren was stunned. What a pity. Now that Tang Feng was dead, He Ling, who was with Tang Feng, naturally couldn't escape this calamity. She was a genius disciple of the Flower Celestial sect. Not only was her strength and appearance good, but if she didn't die tragically in the ancestral tomb, she would have achieved something in the future. However, the world of martial artists was so cruel. Without powerful strength, one couldn't control one's own life and fate. Boom! One of the mummies faced the Golden Fist Force head-on and was then devoured by the terrifying Fist Force and the Origin Energy Dragon, turning into dust. The other mummy, Tang Feng, was pierced through by Fei Ren's green dragon halberd and nailed to a giant tree, unable to move. These two mummies had the potential to grow as corpses and could be considered as one of the trump cards of the Dark Corpse Taoist. However, in order to escape, the Dark Corpse Taoist didn't dare to hold back at all. He threw them all out to block Fei Ren's pursuit. Little bastard, count yourself lucky this time. Our Bone sect won't let you off so easily. Looking at the mummies that had turned into dust, the Dark Corpse Taoist's face was as red as a pig's liver. He immediately controlled a few mummies around him to block Fei Ren. At the same time, he didn't dare to slow down and fled into the dense forest not far away. Little White, help me block these dead things. Seeing that the Dark Corpse Taoist was planning to escape, Fei Ren also summoned puppet Little White from the spiritual ring. The other party had mummies, but he also had a puppet, and its strength and function were stronger. Crack! As soon as puppet Little White appeared, it immediately pulled out two sharp bone blades under Fei Ren's instructions. At the same time, it blocked the surrounding mummies. Most of these mummies were below the 6th level of the Martial Master realm. They were not a match for puppet Little White at all. In just a few moves, they fell to the ground and died, killed by puppet Little White's bone blades. Although puppet Little White killed most of the mummies blocking the way, Fei Ren accidentally let the Dark Corpse Taoist escape. There was no other reason. The other party's escape speed was really fast. It seemed that he had used some kind of strange, demonic technique. It was as if he had turned into a wisp of black smoke. In just a few breaths, he had disappeared without a trace. If it weren't for these mummies blocking him, perhaps Fei Ren would have been able to keep him here. Unlucky, I still let this demonic cultivator escape. If I had known earlier, I would have killed him first. After landing on the ground and looking at the Dark Corpse Taoist who had disappeared without a trace, Fei Ren clenched his fists tightly and his face was a little unhappy. Although the Dark Corpse Taoist's strength was not very good, his escaping skills were top-notch. With the obstruction of a few mummies, he had successfully escaped from his pursuit and disappeared. In addition, the Dark Corpse Taoist was also a demonic cultivator who was good at refining corpses. Compared to the other Bone sect elder, Wang Jie, he obviously had more treasures on him. If he killed the other party, he would definitely gain a lot. Chapter 442. Bone Sect. I seem to have heard of this name before. Fei Ren rubbed his nose and pondered. Although the Dark Corpse Taoist had run away, he seemed to have left some harsh words before he fled. He seemed to be a member of the Bone Sect and had a high position in the sect. The Bone Sect was a grade 7 force. The sect master was powerful and had reached the martial spirit realm. He had a group of evil cultivators under him and was notorious in the Great Ming dynasty. At the same time, he was not tolerated by the majority of righteous sects and forces. A few pieces of information slowly appeared in the depths of Fei Ren's mind. It seems that many martial artists in the ancestral mausoleum have been killed by these Bone Sect people. In his memory, almost none of these Bone Sect martial artists were kind. Their hands were stained with the blood of countless lives. Moreover, this time, by killing Wang Jie and forcing the Dark Corpse Taoists to retreat, Fei Ren could be considered to have gotten rid of evil for the people and carried out justice on behalf of the heavens. After all, they were both martial artists. As Bone Sect elders, Wang Jie and the Dark Corpse Taoists were extremely cruel and vicious. Moreover, the other party cultivated the corpse refining technique, which was not tolerated by many outside martial artists. Once they attacked, it would cause public anger. For example, Tung Feng from the grade 7 Tung family of the Huainan region was killed by the Dark Corpse Taoist and then refined into a mummy. So this old man is an elder of the Bone Sect. No wonder he's so arrogant. The Dharma golden Buddha body gradually dissipated. In the next moment, Fei Ren also put away the azure dragon halberd. At the same time, the scarlet golden light on his body receded and he returned to his normal state. At this moment, he was holding a token in his hand. The token was completely black. By pouring Yuan Qi into it, a message would appear, including the dead elder of the Bone Sect, Wang Jie. As a notorious grade 7 force in the Great Ming Dynasty, the Bone Sect had many elders under its command. Other than Wang Jie, who died in Fei Ren's hands, and the Dark Corpse Taoist who fled in panic, there were no less than a dozen elders. Their foundation was comparable to some quasi-grade 6 forces. Therefore, even if they lost an elder, it would not have much impact on the foundation of the Bone Sect. In addition, this was also the reason why the Dark Corpse Taoist dared to say such ruthless words to retaliate against Fei Ren. Although he was not a match for Fei Ren, he could still call for many powerful helpers from the Bone Sect. I wonder what treasures are inside. He raised his hand and summoned the spirit ring left behind by Wang Jie's corpse into his palm. Although Fei Ren felt that it was a pity that he couldn't kill Daoistine corpse and obtain the method to refine corpses and other treasures, he didn't worry about it anymore. Wang Jie was also an elder of the Bone Sect. His cultivation was at the 10th level of the Martial Master Realm. Even if there were not many treasures in his spiritual ring, their value would not be low. 400,000 low-grade primordial stones, 1,000 mid-grade primordial stones, dozens of medicinal herbs of grade 5 and above, blazing fire talismans, and a quasi-grade 6 martial art, crippling feather arrow formation. So many treasures. Fei Ren looked into the spirit ring with his Yuan energy. He was quite surprised. Although he was mentally prepared, he was still shocked by Wang Jie's wealth. As a LV-10 martial master, Wang Jie seemed to be richer than he had imagined. After all, he had a lot of primordial stones. There were 400,000 low-grade primordial stones and 1,000 mid-grade primordial stones. According to the exchange rate of mid-grade primordial stones, 1,000 mid-grade primordial stones were 100,000 low-grade primordial stones. In other words, Fei Ren had obtained a total of 500,000 low-grade primordial stones. It was not a small fortune. I'm rich. At this moment, this was the only thought in Fei Ren's mind. In addition to the huge amount of primordial stones, medicinal herbs, and the quasi-grade 6 martial art, Wang Jie also had a rare blazing fire talisman. Spirit talismans were a special kind of combat treasure. By injecting a trace of Yuan energy into it, it could explode with powerful destructive power. In the outside world, only martial artists with strong mental strength could make such spirit talismans. Outsiders called them spirit talisman masters, and their status was second only to alchemists. The power of the spirit talisman was also related to its level. It was generally divided into low grade, mid grade, high grade, and top grade. Above the top grade talismans were the legendary earth level and heaven level spirit talismans. However, these spirit talismans were too rare and powerful. Even Fei Ren had not seen them before. He had only heard of them. As for the blazing fire talisman in his hand, it was an ordinary mid-grade spirit talisman. It could release a strong flame power to kill strong enemies. Its power was comparable to a full blow from a level 10 martial master. It seemed to be one of Wang Jie's trump cards. However, Wang Jie did not have the chance to use the Blazing Fire Talisman before he was killed by Fei Ren with a punch. In addition to the Blazing Fire Talisman, the quasi-grade 6 martial art, Broken Feather Arrow Array, was also a valuable treasure. Although these two items were not of much help to Fei Ren, it was better than nothing. In the future, he could sell them in the outside world's black market and exchange them for other treasures. Good stuff. Putting the Blazing Fire Talisman into his spiritual ring, Fei Ren looked at Wang Jie's corpse on the ground. I can't waste the corpse. After taking a deep breath, Fei Ren summoned the refining Immortal Cauldron and absorbed the remaining life essence on the corpse. Walla walla, as wisps of life essence converged into the depths of his dantian and turned into pure origin power, Fei Ren's origin power aura also increased by a lot. As for the origin power that he had consumed in the fierce battle with Wang Jie and the Dark Corpse Taoist, he had recovered to his peak state. This battle was his first battle after breaking through to level 5 Martial Master. It could be said that he had gained a lot. Not only did he obtain a lot of treasures, but he also completely consolidated his origin power cultivation that had just broken through. It's time to leave. Now that the strong enemy had been eliminated and his cultivation had broken through, Fei Ren naturally would not stay here any longer. At the same time, on the other side of the ancestral tomb, it seems that you're also interested in the inheritance of the martial king. In front of a stone peak, a man in white stood quietly. At this moment, his gaze was fixed on the purple figure not far away, and his tone was solemn. The purple figure's face was covered with sand, and her figure was graceful. Her every movement carried an extraordinary immortal chi. At the same time, her origin power aura was strong, far beyond the martial master level. She was the night demon fairy who had forced the 5 major tribes to put aside their many years of grudges and work together to open the ancestral mausoleum. You already know the answer. Who are you? How dare you stop me? Faced with the man in white's probing, the night demon fairy smiled coldly and then said lightly. Although the man was not weak, being at level 6 martial spirit realm, which was enough to crush most of the warriors in the ancestral mausoleum, he was still no match for her. Dragon Sect, 4th Guard Captain, Guansheng. The white-clothed man took a deep breath. In the next moment, he straightened his chest and said proudly, "Moreover, everyone can obtain the opportunity." Why do you say that? Although the Night Demon Fairy was slightly stronger than him, as a member of the Dragon Sect who used to be famous in the Black Star continent, the man in white had his own pride and glory. Naturally, he would not back down just because of a few words from the Night Demon Fairy. Both of them were in the martial spirit realm, but the Night Demon Fairy's origin power cultivation was slightly higher, reaching level 7 martial spirit realm. Guansheng was only at level 6 martial spirit realm, so the gap was still there. Chapter 443. Heavenly Dragon Sect. The Night Demon Fairy frowned, then she sneered. So you're a remnant of the Dragon Sect. Even the great Ming Empire is being targeted by the remnants of the Dragon Sect. The Heavenly Dragon Sect was a behemoth whose name shook the entire Black Star continent 30 years ago. Its teachings were both righteous and evil. It was a maverick. In its heyday, even the first-grade forces of the continent were wary of it, which led to the joint attack of many first-grade forces. About 30 years ago, the Heavenly Dragon Sect was besieged by the various sects and forces of Shinstar mainland. In the end, not only did the sect master go missing, but more than half of the sect's experts were also killed. It was rumored that the sect leader of the Heavenly Dragon Sect and his subordinates cultivated demonic arts and slaughtered innocent people. As a result, their strength rose rapidly. At the same time, they also recruited a large number of demons and evil cultivators to plot against the entire Black Star continent. This was why the first-grade factions of the continent attacked them. However, these were only rumors, and no one knew whether they were true or false. They were all buried in the dust of history, along with the decline of the Heavenly Dragon sect. As for the surviving Heavenly Dragon sect martial artists, they were known as the remnants of the Heavenly Dragon sect. They were constantly being hunted by various factions. Therefore, Night Demon Fairy was wary after knowing the background of the white-robed man, Guansheng. Although her reputation wasn't good and she had grudges with many factions compared to the Heavenly Dragon sect, she paled in comparison. What bullshit remnants? Guanxing didn't get angry at the Night Demon Fairy's mockery. Instead, he laughed and clenched his fists. If it weren't for my master's trust and betrayal, the Heavenly Dragon sect wouldn't have declined. It was all a scheme of those hypocrites. As the fourth captain of the Heavenly Dragon sect, his position in the sect wasn't high, but it was far above the elites and followers of the sect. He knew the Heavenly Dragon sect very well. Back then, the Heavenly Dragon sect wasn't a demonic sect, but it was besieged by the first-grade factions of the continent for another reason. At the peak of the Dragon sect, there were a total of 5 guard captains, leading many elites and sect members. Every one of them was above the martial spirit realm. However, in that battle, the 5 guardian captains of the Heavenly Dragon sect were all killed. The first guardian captain and third guardian captain went missing, and the other 2 guardian captains died. Only Guansheng, the fourth guardian captain, survived. I won't easily believe the words of evil demons and demons. At the same time, a powerful purple origin chi gushed out of her body and spread in all directions. It was like the sky was filled with purple clouds. Most of the warriors who entered the ancestral mausoleum this time were here for the inheritance left behind by the Martial King realm experts. It was the same for her in Guansheng. Not to mention that the other party was from the Heavenly Dragon sect and belonged to the demonic path. Even if it was for the sake of obtaining the inheritance of the Martial King realm, the Night Demon Fairy would definitely fight with him. This battle was inevitable. Ignorant woman, do you really think I'm afraid of you? Seeing this, Guanxing stopped probing and immediately shot out. He raised his hand and punched towards the Night Demon Fairy. Boom, boom. A large amount of elemental energy turned into a pure white palm energy that attacked the Night Demon Fairy like the fire of a pill furnace. His origin chi cultivation was at the 6th martial spirit realm, while the Night Demon Fairy was slightly stronger at the 7th martial spirit realm. Although there was a difference of a small realm, as the 4th captain of the Heavenly Dragon sect, Guansheng had rich battle experience. He was confident that even if he couldn't defeat the Night Demon Fairy, it wouldn't be easy for her to kill him. Pure ocean, profound spirit palm. Facing Guansheng's attack, the Night Demon Fairy didn't retreat. Instead, she attacked with her own palm. Swoosh! A majestic purple origin chi swept out and then condensed into a giant origin chi palm. There was an illusory light on the palm that seemed to be able to purify all evil things in the world. It was an extraordinary attack. This was the Night Demon Fairy's specialty martial art. Its power was comparable to a 7th rank martial art. Even a warrior of the same rank would find it difficult to resist. Boom, boom. In less than a breath's time, the 2 different Yuan energy attacks collided fiercely. Then, they exploded with a loud bang, emitting a deafening explosion. TSK, TSK, TSK. Sparks flew in all directions. Although Guansheng's attack was powerful, it couldn't withstand the Night Demon Fairy's counterattack. Boom, boom. The huge palm energy that was filled with purple Yuan power instantly annihilated Guansheng's attack. Then, without losing any of its power, it continued to attack Guansheng. A quasi-8th rank martial art. Seeing this, Guansheng's face flashed with shock. His expression was ugly. In the beginning, he had underestimated the Night Demon Fairy's strength. Although her origin chi cultivation was only a small realm higher than his, with a quasi-8th rank martial art, her true strength wasn't inferior to any 8th rank martial spirit realm. Boom! Shifting to the side, Guansheng used all his strength to barely dodge the attack. However, he was still affected by the residual power of the Yuan Chi palm. A large bloody wound was left on his left shoulder. His bones were visible to the naked eye. It was clearly not a light injury. What a terrifying woman. Her origin chi is so violent and full of hidden energy. It almost backfired on my dantian and meridians. Frowning, Guansheng's face was no longer as calm as before. His eyes were full of fear as he looked at the night demon fairy. Not only was her attack powerful, but it was also filled with violent origin chi. Once it entered the body, it would destroy the dantian and meridians, crippling the victim or even killing him on the spot. However, as the former fourth captain of the Heavenly Dragon sect, Guansheng had a wealth of battle experience and was not weak at all. He immediately used his own Yuan Qi to negate the Night Demon Fairy's Yuan Qi and narrowly escape death. This woman is not simple. I can't fight her head-on. Guansheng's face was solemn as he felt the lingering fear. I heard that there were countless experts in the Dragon sect back then. Is this all you've got? The Night Demon Fairy didn't seem to want to give her opponent a chance to breathe. In the next moment, her cold voice came from afar as she attacked again. Rumble. As the battle between the Night Demon Fairy and Guansheng became more and more intense, the sky changed color and the clouds changed color. Loud rumbling sounds could be heard everywhere. Even the ground below was filled with strong origin chi aura, causing one's heart to palpitate. Swoosh! Fei Rin's figure broke through the air and landed on a tree branch in the dense forest. This is... Raising his head to look at the sky, Fei Rin's face was filled with shock as he watched the aftermath of the intense Yuan power clash. Such an intense battle was far beyond the scope of an ordinary martial spirit realm expert. It was like a battle between gods. Chapter 444. Two martial spirit realm experts, and they're at least LV6 martial spirit realm. Fei Rin lowered his Yuanli aura to the lowest level and hid in a tree branch. He looked up at the sky in horror, trying not to be noticed. Fei Rin was very clear in his heart that no matter which side was fighting in the sky, they could easily kill him. LV6 martial spirit realm was not something he could fight against. Even if he used the Dharma Golden Buddha body and the Immortal refining cauldron, it would be useless. Rumble. Fei Rin quietly hid in the dense forest for a few minutes. Just as he was thinking about how to sneak away, the fierce battle in the sky came to an end. The aftershocks of the battle dissipated, revealing the figures of a man and a woman. That figure, could it be? Fei Rin looked up at the sky and saw the purple figure. His face froze, and his pupils shrank. Night Demon Fairy. Memories that had been buried deep in his mind for a long time kept surging, as if the past was right in front of him. It's her. That woman is here as well. Looking at the fierce battle between Guansheng and the Night Demon Fairy, Fei Rin smiled bitterly. His face was filled with mixed feelings. Back in Wuan town, the humiliation she brought to him and the disaster that destroyed his family was still fresh in his mind. It had become a demon in his heart. But in terms of hatred, he did not particularly hate her. All these years, Fei Rin had been cultivating with all his might. He wanted to defeat the Night Demon Fairy and get rid of the demon in his heart at the same time. After forcing Guansheng back with another palm strike, the Night Demon Fairy in the sky seemed to have sensed Fei Rin's obscure Yuan power aura below. Soon after, her gaze swept across the vast forest below. It's that kid. Her beautiful eyes fell on Fei Rin. In the next moment, the Night Demon Fairy's face froze. Then, a familiar yet unfamiliar figure appeared in her mind. A few years ago, back in Wuan town, the stubborn young man who had just stepped out of the village that determined an unyielding face. Everything was so similar to this young man. Even though the other party had already intentionally restrained his aura and concealed his figure, due to the huge disparity in strength between both parties, Fei Rin was still unable to escape her essence energy senses. The fifth level of the Martial Master Realm. In just a few short years, I didn't expect that kid's cultivation to increase so quickly. Sensing the strong elemental energy undulations from Fei Ren's body, Night Demon Fairy was surprised. Back in the Dacha dynasty's Wuan town, Fei Ren was merely an ant in the body refinement realm. Now, only a few years had passed, and Fei Ren had grown to the 5th level of the Martial Master realm. With such a cultivation speed, he could be considered a genius even in the vast southeastern region. There's another fly. At this time, Guansheng, who was on the other side of the sky, also noticed Fei Ren's trace and immediately frowned. The Night Demon Fairy was powerful, so he didn't want to continue fighting. Although Fei Ren wasn't strong, only a LV5 Martial Master. If they continued fighting, it would attract more warriors and cause trouble. After all, Guansheng had the dragon sect behind him. Once his identity was exposed, he would be hunted down by countless cultivators. Have I been discovered? Seeing that both Guansheng and Night Devil Fairy were looking at him, Fei Ren no longer hid himself and flew straight into the sky. It's been a few years since we last met. Senior's strength is still so strong. Looking at the Night Demon Fairy, Fei Ren's eyes were calm as he spoke in a neither servile nor overbearing tone. Although he was still no match for the Night Demon Fairy, as long as he had the Immortal refining cauldron, he would surpass her sooner or later. It was only a matter of time. Oh, the little guy in the body refinement realm from the Dachu dynasty back then. I didn't expect you to have grown so much over the years. What? Are you here to take revenge on me this time? A pair of beautiful eyes glanced at Fei Ren. In the next moment, the Night Demon Fairy also said indifferently. Her face was covered by a veil, making it impossible to see the changes in her expression. Her tone was still cold and arrogant, as if the other party was just an insignificant ant. The world of warriors is a place where the strong prey on the weak. Back then, my brothers died in Senior's hands. I have nothing to say. However, one day, I will defeat you with my own hands. Shaking his head, Fei Ren clenched his fists as an unyielding fighting spirit appeared in his eyes. His opponent was at the 7th level of the martial spirit realm. In a few more years, he would be able to catch up and defeat her at the same time. And only by defeating the Night Demon Fairy would he be able to get rid of his inner demon. Defeat me? Kid, aren't you afraid that I will kill you right now? However, just as he finished speaking, Night Demon Fairy sneered again. If Senior really wanted to kill me, I would have been dead back in Wuan Town. Facing the Night Demon Fairy's threat, Fei Ren's expression was still calm as he spoke. Although she was cold and arrogant and did not do things according to common sense, she seemed to have her own set of principles. This was reflected in Wuan Town back then. Although Night Demon Fairy had slaughtered more than half of the Iron Palm School's disciples because of Elder Wu Tai's evil deeds, she didn't kill all of them and killed Fei Ren and the others as well. This kid is quite brave. Seeing that Fei Ren was not afraid of her, Night Demon Fairy's expression was slightly surprised. Of course, she did not have the intention to kill him, and the reason was simple. Fei Ren was too weak for her to kill him. Although she was the infamous demoness of the southeast region, Night Demon Fairy had her own principles. Normally, she would not kill the weak, unless the person was extremely evil. It was obvious that the Fei Ren in front of him wasn't an extremely evil person. Instead, he was a genius. In the sky, the tense atmosphere was still there. Kid, let me ask you, is the treasure in your hand the Azure Dragon Halberd? At this moment, Guansheng's voice came from afar. There was a hint of surprise in his tone. His gaze was fixed on Fei Ren, and at the same time, on the Azure Dragon Halberd behind Fei Ren. His eyes flickered, as if he had seen something inconceivable. 6th level of the martial spirit realm. Hearing the voice, Fei Ren's face turned serious when he sensed the yuan power fluctuation on Guansheng's body. Kid, that guy is a remnant of the dragon sect. Although I have no interest in killing you, he might not. The Night Demon Fairy explained indifferently. Her voice was as cold as ever. Dragon sect. He's also a member of the dragon sect. Fei Ren thought to himself as he focused his mind. Then, he cupped his hands again. Senior of the Dragon Sect, the treasure in my hand is indeed the Azure Dragon Halberd, but it was obtained from a treasure land. The Azure Dragon Halberd was a relic of Zhang Qingyang. It was a grade 5 spirit treasure and had accompanied Fei Run in battle all these years. Although the Azure Dragon Halberd's use and power decreased as his strength increased, he still kept it by his side. Although the Azure Dragon Halberd was only a grade 5 spirit treasure, Fei Ren was very comfortable with it. At the same time, he also intended to reforge it to increase its power. It really is the Azure Dragon Halberd. Kid, where is Zhang Qingyang now? Hearing his words, Guansheng's face changed slightly. He then shouted in a low voice. There was a hint of trembling in his voice. Chapter 445. This person also knows Zhang Qingyang. His heart trembling, Fei Ren suddenly remembered that the other party was also a member of the Heavenly Dragon Sect, so he didn't find it strange. Not only did Guansheng recognize the origin of the Azure Dragon Halberd, but he also seemed to be related to Zhang Qingyang. After all, Guansheng was once the third captain of the Heavenly Dragon Sect's guards. His cultivation had reached the 9th level of the martial spirit realm, and he was also one of the few people who knew about his birth parents. Senior Zhang Qingyang has been dead for many years. This Azure Dragon Halberd is something he left behind. After taking a deep breath, Fei Ren opened his mouth and said, just as the Night Demon Fairy said, since Guansheng was also a member of the Heavenly Dragon Sect and was not weak, there was nothing to hide. Dead. Hearing this, Guansheng's face froze. He gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. Brother Qingyang, I didn't expect that even you couldn't escape in the end. Damn it. Damn it. Guansheng's face was a little ugly. As the 4th captain of the Heavenly Dragon Sect guards, Guansheng had a close relationship with the 3rd captain, Zhang Qingyang. However, after the Heavenly Dragon Sect's incident more than 30 years ago, he lost track of Zhang Qingyang. Now, he once again saw Zhang Qingyang's natal spiritual treasure, the Azure Dragon Halberd, from Fei Ren. The original owner of the Azure Dragon Halberd, Zhang Qingyang, had died many years ago. At this point, other than the 1st captain who was still missing, only Guansheng, the 4th captain of the Heavenly Dragon Sect, was left. Rumor has it that there are many experts in the Heavenly Dragon Sect. At its peak, many first-grade sects in the Xian Star continent trembled in fear. As a 6th-level martial spirit realm expert, this person must have a high position in the Heavenly Dragon Sect. Maybe I can get some information about my parents from him. Seeing Guansheng's reaction, Fei Ren's mind was filled with thoughts, and his eyes narrowed. Back in the ancient tomb in the northern Baron County, he only knew from Zhang Qingyang that his birth parents were hunted down by bandits. He did not know if they were alive or not. I didn't expect you to be related to the Heavenly Dragon Sect. The conversation between Guansheng and Fei Ren also fell into the ears of the Night Demon Fairy. A pair of beautiful eyes looked at Fei Ren indifferently. The Night Demon Fairy smiled coldly. Kid, I'm surprised that you've obtained a lot of opportunities in the past few years. After all, Fei Ren was only an ordinary martial artist from a small town in the Darchu dynasty in the past, and his cultivation was only at the body refinement realm. On the other hand, Fei Ren had surely obtained many fortuitous encounters and inheritances since he was able to reach his current state with the body of an independent cultivator. Compared to you, this is, said Guansheng's of Fei of the Heavenly Dragon Sect. He knew very well that Guansheng was not praising him. She was just slightly surprised. As one of the infamous demonesses of the southeastern region, the Night Demon Fairy was not only powerful, but also proud and aloof. She rarely interacted with other forces and martial artists. These rumors came from the limited information he had obtained from the Scorching Sun sect. In order to defeat the Night Demon Fairy, apart from cultivating, Fei Ren had gathered a lot of information about her. May I ask what position Senior holds in the Heavenly Dragon Sect? Fei Ren turned around and saw that Guansheng's expression was still changing. He didn't say anything for a long time, but he didn't leave either. Guan Sheng was only slightly weaker than Zhang Qingyang, so he was definitely not an ordinary member of the Heavenly Dragon sect. My surname is Guan, and my name is Sheng. I'm the fourth captain of the Heavenly Dragon sect. I didn't expect Brother Qingyang's natal spiritual treasure to fall into your hands. You're lucky, but Guan Sheng's solemn face revealed a trace of killing intent as he said coldly, "If you're just an incompetent idiot, you'll only bring shame to Brother Qingyang's legacy." Guan Sheng's words were aggressive, and the meaning was self-evident. He thought that Fei Ren was not worthy of Zhang Qingyang's legacy and natal spiritual treasure, the Azure Dragon Halberd. I don't know if it's a shame or not, but Senior Zhang Qingyang's legacy is in my hands. Now, I can exert the power it should have. Facing Guan Sheng's provocation, Fei Ren's face was still calm. Ha ha ha. Kid, you're just a level 5 martial master, but you're quite confident. Seeing Fei Ren's neither servile nor overbearing explanation, Guan Sheng laughed and asked again, "Let me ask you, what's your name?" Fei Ren. Fei Ren. Your surname is also Fei? What a coincidence. Hearing this, Guan Sheng was taken aback. In his past memories, there was also a great figure in the dragon sect. His power was monstrous, and his surname was Fei. Senior Guan, you seem to know something about the incident that happened to the dragon sect 30 years ago. Fei Ren asked again. Seeing the other party's reaction, Fei Ren was certain that the other party might know something about his biological parents. Kid, it seems that you're very interested in the history of the dragon sect. This woman beside you calls me a remnant of the Heavenly Dragon sect. Don't tell me you also want to get involved with the Devil Dao. Facing Fei Ren's question, Guan Sheng grinned. His tone was meaningful, but he didn't speak bluntly. With an awkward expression, Fei Ren first glanced at the night demon fairy not far away, and then his palms were covered in cold sweat. Just as Guan Sheng said, the dragon sect's reputation in the Black Star continent was not good, and it was a demonic path force in the eyes of the majority of cultivators. If he showed great interest in the dragon sect, it would inevitably arouse the killing intent of the night demon fairy. Fei Ren had witnessed the other party's way of doing things back in Darchu Dynasty's Wuan town. In the past, the elder of the Iron Palm sect, Wu Tai, had wreaked havoc in Clear Wind Castle and bullied men and women, causing the Night Demon Fairy to go on a killing spree and annihilate more than half of the Iron Palm sect. Kid, I've disappointed you. I've only heard a little about that person's history, and I don't know anything else. If you really want to know something, or if you want to join our dragon sect, this thing can help you. Seeing Fei Ren's hesitation and the Night Demon Fairy's lack of reaction, as if she wasn't interested in the Heavenly Dragon sect's matters, Guan Sheng took out a gray iron lotus flower lamp from his spirit ring and sneered with a playful tone. This is... Fei Ren's expression froze. Heavenly Dragon Lotus Lamp. A trace of pride appeared on Guan Sheng's face. This item is exclusive to the captains of the dragon sect, and only the 5 captains are qualified to obtain it. With this item, not only can you mobilize the elites and followers of the dragon sect, but it can also be used as a token. It's just that the Heavenly Dragon sect is in decline now. Many of its experts have died, so the significance of this Heavenly Dragon Lotus Flower Lantern is no longer that important. Perhaps you can obtain some news about the sect in the northern continent where the Heavenly Dragon sect rose to prominence. Glancing at Fei Ren, Guan Sheng continued. The so-called dragon sect rose to prominence was the place where the dragon sect rose to prominence. Unlike Fei Ren, Guan Sheng himself was not a native of the eastern continent, but came from the northern continent. Is this guy trying to recruit this brat into the Heavenly Dragon sect? Seeing Guan Sheng's action, the Night Demon Fairy's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. This was the first time Guan Sheng and Fei Ren had met, and Guan Sheng was already giving away the Heavenly Dragon Lotus Lamp with such a special meaning. Fairy of the Night Devil, I admit defeat this time. You can have the inheritance of the Martial King. After giving the Heavenly Dragon Lotus Lamp to Fei Ren, Guan Sheng turned around and looked at the Night Demon Fairy with a ruthless expression. You're not my opponent to begin with. Her tone was still cold, and the Night Demon Fairy looked at Guan Sheng with a trace of disdain. Although she failed to kill Guan Sheng in the previous battle, she had the advantage of a small realm and possessed a quasi-8th grade martial art. If they continued to fight, she had a 70% chance of killing Guan Sheng. Even if he did not die, he would be severely injured. Chapter 446. Tisk. Guan Sheng's face darkened at the night demon fairy's disdain, but he had nothing to say. After all, it was true that he could not defeat his opponent. There was a slight difference in their strength. Kid, if you want to join the Heavenly Dragon sect, you can take this Heavenly Dragon Lotus Lamp to the northern continent. Although the Heavenly Dragon sect is weak now, its foundation is still there. You'll know what you want when the time comes. Guan Sheng cautiously glanced at the night demon fairy, then sent a voice transmission to Fei Ren. At the same time, he turned around and left quickly, as if he was afraid that the night demon fairy would attack again. Senior, don't you like to enforce justice on behalf of the heavens? Why didn't you stop him? Looking at Guan Sheng's disappearing figure, Fei Ren recalled the Heavenly Dragon Lotus Lamp and looked at the night demon fairy. Guan Sheng was from the Heavenly Dragon sect, a demonic force. However, the night demon fairy didn't have any intention of attacking and let him leave. This surprised Fei Ren. He couldn't understand the night demon fairy in front of him. Although the other party was a demoness whose name shook the southeastern region and had enmity with many sects, forces, and clans, her personality was very clear. She wasn't as rigid as everyone thought and was hard to fathom. I only care about the Martial King's legacy. This guy is too weak. Killing him is like killing an ant. It's meaningless. The night demon fairy said calmly with a deep gaze. Senior, he's from the Heavenly Dragon sect. Fei Ren was stunned for a moment before an awkward expression appeared on his face. If Guan Sheng, who was at LV's 6 martial spirit realm, was an ant, then he was even more insignificant. He was even less than an ant. So what? The night demon fairy didn't seem to care much about the Heavenly Dragon sect. Her tone was still cold. Senior, Fei Ren was about to speak again, but was interrupted by the night demon fairy, followed by a pair of cold eyes. I'm not one of those old guys from the sects, and I'm only a few years older than you. Why do you keep calling me senior? Although the night demon fairy was powerful, she was only a few years older than Fei Ren. However, Fei Ren didn't know this. After all, the night demon fairy was wearing a veil, and her face couldn't be seen. Her voice was also very cold and ethereal. As far as Fei Ren knew, there were many powerful warriors who could retain their youthful looks through techniques that allowed them to retain their youthful appearance. But their actual age was far beyond their youthful appearance. At first, he thought that the night demon fairy in front of him was one of these people. But now it seemed that. Tang Shui, my name. Glancing at Fei Ren again, the night demon fairy said lightly, Sister Tang Shui. Fei Ren grinned and saw that the night demon fairy wasn't dissatisfied with this title. The next moment, he cupped his hands and said, Back then, I treated you as my opponent. Why don't you kill me now? From the very beginning, he had said that he would defeat Tang Shui in the future and get rid of the demon in his heart. From how Fei Ren saw it, ordinary cultivators definitely wouldn't give their opponents this opportunity. I like being challenged, and I also like fighting with experts. Boy, you were able to go from a small town's rogue cultivator to where you are today. You're quite talented. As such, I want to see how far you'll grow and whether you'll be qualified to fight with me. That's why I didn't kill you. As her voice faded, Tang Shui spoke in an indifferent tone. There was a trace of arrogance in her tone. Does this woman think I'm her whetstone? Hearing this, Fei Ren's expression slightly changed, and he felt a bit uncomfortable. He now understood that Tang Shui didn't kill him because she wanted to train herself, and she wasn't a kind person. Sister Tang, you're indeed a phoenix among people. I admire you. Although he was still a little afraid of Tang Shui in front of him, seeing that she really did not want to kill him, Fei Ren's courage grew. He immediately began to flatter her. After all, a woman was a woman. She liked to hear beautiful words. Boy, have you heard of the Clear Sea sect? Ignoring Fei Rin's flattery, Tang Shui spoke again. Her tone carried a deeper meaning. This, I don't know. Scratching his head, Fei Rin racked his brain, but he still couldn't remember anything about the Clear Sea sect. If you're strong enough and qualified to challenge me, you could go to the Clear Sea sect in 3 years. Tang Shui's beautiful eyes flickered as she stared deeply at Fei Rin. In the next instant, she turned and left. Her graceful figure disappeared into the horizon, leaving behind only her ethereal voice. 3 years, huh? Clear Sea sect, Tang Shui. One day I, Fei Rin, will not only defeat you, but I'll also make you my woman. Looking at the direction where Tang Shui's figure disappeared, Fei Rin took a deep breath, and a trace of determination appeared on his handsome face. It was true that he wanted to get rid of his inner demons, defeat Tang Shui, and wash away the humiliation from back then. However, Fei Rin now had a new idea. As for when this idea appeared, even he didn't know. Perhaps it was because of the countless days and nights of bitter training and striving to catch up, but the current Fei Rin actually had some feelings for the night demon fairy, Tang Shui. Tang Shui was known as the Night Demon Fairy. Not only did her name resound throughout the entire southeastern region, but it also caused the various large sects and clans to tremble in fear upon hearing her name. If Fei Rin wanted to gain the other party's approval, he had to become even stronger. After Tang Shui left, Fei Rin didn't stay any longer and also left. Swoosh! Suddenly, the sky distorted slightly, and then a crack in the void appeared, exuding the mysterious power of the space concept. In the next moment, Tang Shui's figure appeared again. Her tall and slender figure was graceful. Even if she did not show her face, it was obvious that she was a peerless beauty. Fei Rin, let me see what you're capable of. Although the dead Azir was only a level 1 martial king, the inheritance he left behind is not bad. Tang Shui's beautiful eyes moved, but her expression was calm. At first, she wanted to fight for Azir's treasure, but now she changed her mind. Although the Martial King realm's inheritance was very rare, she could still step into the Martial King realm in the future without it. Compared to this, she wanted to see if Fei Rin could snatch food from the tiger's mouth from the 5 major tribes and a large number of rogue cultivators and obtain Azir's inheritance. After all, Tang Shui was different from Fei Rin and the others. Not only did she have a shocking background, but she was also extremely talented. Even her mastery of the power of concept was far superior to most warriors. To her, even stepping into the Martial King realm was just the beginning. Like the Tomb Keeper Huang Tian, Tang Shui had also mastered the mysterious space concept, and it was a complete space concept. Not only was its power and effect far superior to Huang Tian, but it could even tear the void apart. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.